What's up, everybody? Welcome to the GameOverGreggy show. I am one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside the producer/seducer, Nick Scarpino.
Hi.
Hey, we told you not to. The first thing Nick ever taught me about being on video: don't wear a patterned shirt. It's gonna moray.
Don't wear tight patterns. Yeah. So I'm wearing.
Is this a tight pattern? Does this count as a tight pattern?
I don't think I'm moraying. I don't know, Kev. You could tell. Is my shirt look all wobbly? I also don't know. This is a new camera, so I don't know if the rolling shot. Sean Finnegan, who is here, will be able to answer all of our camera needs.
You skipped all the thing.
We'll get to him in a second.
On the show.
Yet.
You're fine. You're the guest. You're allowed to say whatever you want to say.
So the reason I'm wearing the shirt, though, you should know, is that I only have 2 shirts that match these pants, and I've worn the pants 2 days in a row.
So it's time.
This is the other shirt. I'm wearing pants for all those people who are getting the podcast early and can't see this video.
Yeah.
I feel like an adult when I wear pants. We can go into
To be clear,
later.
you're saying not jeans.
Not jeans.
Definitions of pants get around. So just the
Khakis.
fact that you're wearing pants isn't news. People expect you to be wearing
No,
pants.
I'm physically covering my chonies up with a fabric that is not denim.
What part of the body is that?
The chonies are the boxers, the underwear.
Got it.
Is it really? Is that true? That doesn't sound right.
It's a name for. I might have.
Over here, the pride of Long Island, Colin Moriarty.
I'm gonna be honest with you. It is as bright as the fuck. Like I'm on Mercury right now, facing the sun. It is so
it's not
fucking
hot.
It's not.
bright here.
We're not.
it's not hot, though.
We're not using the gels. Is that correct? No
not.
gels.
We took the gels off.
The gel out is over.
Last week we had
The scabs are out of
the gels were a waste of money.
The scabs are out of line. The union workers are
Oh,
doing
okay.
it. Get off the picket line.
Last week we had that moment where the gels fell off and we had the heat shield falling off the window moment.
Right.
Where we were all, but it's just permanently like that now. Now it's just like we are careening. It's like the end of Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
Spoilers. When they send the Battlestar into the sun.
Do they all die in the end?
No.
Oh.
But they do that to get rid of,
They find Earth, right?
Exactly.
They find the fabled colony.
When that happens, I assume that this is what it looked like as it was getting towards the star.
They touched the face of God.
Sure.
It probably would have been a little more orange.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't see. It's not. I like it because it kind of reminds me of baseball lights, like when you're at the stadium. Is it because it's a white light? It's not like a hot sunlight. It's a bright white light.
It's just.
Don't look right at him. Why would you ever look right at him? If you just look at the camera right there, you're fine. But if don't look up. I looked right at it, Ray. And then rounding out the group, the man who loves hiking, Sean Finnegan.
Hello.
Sean.
You get a phone call as soon as the show starts.
You want to get it?
I don't want to get it during the show.
Why not? Put her on.
It's Julie.
Oh.
Put her on. Who's Julie? Put her on. Put her
Friend of
on.
mine.
She
You've met her, I think. Julie, hello. I'm in the middle of a show. Can I call you back later?
I didn't think you'd really
You
answer.
gotta put her on speaker.
Oh wait,
Here.
hang on a
There.
second.
Now hold the speaker up to the thing.
Julie, hi. What's up? What's up? How are you doing?
I was just gonna ask how the shoot at Maker was, because as soon as I get home, I'm dying still and was gonna go to sleep.
Oh, okay.
No.
I can't really understand you.
What the hell are you saying, Julie?
You're on speakerphone on the Game Over Greggy show, but I'm gonna call you back later. How's that?
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Let's make sure that wasn't insanely confidential information. That
Nobody
she just
can
shared
make
with
that
us.
out. It's
Yeah, no,
something-
that sounded like total nonsense to
Okay.
me, right?
Yeah,
I'm
that
not
was-
the only
that
one.
was-
I
That
caught
gibberish.
Maker in there.
Yeah, I caught that too.
Well, you and I went to Maker yesterday. We were in
We
LA.
were in LA, yes.
We were shooting some stuff with Robert Kirkman and crew,
Yep.
and then we went and saw Maker.
which is awesome. I used to work there, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Saw some of our old friends,
Yeah.
including Galen.
Yeah, that was
From
fun.
around you.
Yeah.
So Sean,
Yeah.
for the kids at home who only know that you like hiking because they're hardcore Game Over Greggy show fans, tell us a little bit. Well, how old are you? What do you do? How'd you get to where you are? What are you doing? What's your synopsis? You're
Short bio.
You chat up.
brief.
Somebody on Tinder chats you up. Oh, you like
Oh,
hiking
geez.
too? Tell me about yourself. What do you say?
I'm 28 years old. I work with these guys for about 3 years now. Previously, I worked at Maker Studios.
Previously on Sean Finnegan.
Yeah. I've basically been working in the internet
Good voice,
video sort of industry for a long time, and before that I was working in Hollywood in film. So I love filmmaking, I love movies, I love TV, and my sort of specialty is cinematography, lighting, and camera work, which is what I do at IGN.
What I always say, if there's ever something on IGN that's beautiful, you shot it.
Thank you. That's
True
so
story.
nice of you to say.
Sean Finnegan actually lit tonight's show.
Yeah, I'm sure you're all watching saying it looks better than ever. The camera finally works, so on and so forth. It's
He
because
spent
cameras.
approximately 5 minutes looking at the camera and then looked over at me and he was like, he just shook his head. He was like, "What did you do to this camera?" And I was like, "I did everything I thought you told me to do." And apparently, it was all opposite and wrong.
You were
so
close.
I am not a
Everything
deep
that you should have done, you didn't do. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, he was like, "Well, you were," and he was very nice to me. He was like, "No, you were really close. You were just missing about 15 to 20 settings that would have really made this difference." So I don't know if you're seeing a difference at home, but I can see a difference now in our amazing Samsung confidence monitor brought to you by
My
Samsung.
apologies for having
Brought to you by
right.
Cheryl.
No, it's important. I was gonna say, I've filmed many an unboxing at IGN with Sean Finnegan, and he gets it right. You know what I mean? Like when I have a plushy cat, like the one sitting on top of this television, for instance. This
Holy
is
crap.
Rolo. I bought that in Japan.
Rolo.
That's from Tales of Exilia 2. In case you're curious, I know you want to know.
Which we
It's
did that
rare.
unboxing, yeah.
It's rare that we make a reference that's in the room that there's no way to show
No.
B-roll of. There's nothing Kevin can do.
I'll take a picture of it right now, Kevin. For
What?
you.
It's,
I
by
could
the
take
way,
the point is I could take this cat out of the box and just rotate it like this,
Yeah.
and somehow it looks like we're on QVC or something.
oh
when
yeah,
I listen to the
yeah.
video.
Sean, he'll stop there. He'll go back. He'll do it all over again. He'll order people around to make it look
He's good at what he does.
You also
It
you
sure
did,
is bright though.
you did.
by the way,
It's gonna pay off in the end.
a lot of tweets have come my way about what's on the other side of this line. What do we see
You'll never
when
know.
we do this show?
Yeah.
It's magic.
And
Yeah,
see Kevin.
I never want to show them.
We're never allowed to
I
see
can't.
what Kevin looks
We're gonna
like.
have to get a close up on
It's
the
a
cat.
room
then.
that extends for miles.
Oh, this room's huge. What's funny is we just choose to film in this 2 square foot corner over here, but the room goes on for like 50 feet.
What do you mean?
by
The
design.
well, I mean, like we're in a. Obviously, we live in a castle, and this is one of the dungeons.
Aren't you impressed by our stone walls?
You have the
Yeah, it's
stone
just
walls here.
granite or
Yeah.
whatever stone they use to
Whatever
create
stone
castles.
is
The
in-
finest
it's slate?
It's the
This is a
from the
slate
finest
wall?
quarry.
Yeah, it's Italian actually.
I was
We got it
watching
from-
by the way, I was just watching the Castlevania. Well, it was the castle. Like I want to build a castle conversation with Colin, and I
Oh,
was
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about how I wanted to replicate
Right.
Castlevania, and I was talking about the finest stone quarries. What the hell was I talking about in that episode?
That's
It was
what
a
you do.
weird, yeah.
Here's the thing
It's a
about
weird
quarries.
episode.
I feel like quarries,
Quarries or quarries?
quarries, where you're getting the rocks, the rock quarry.
So like not like quarry and
Feldman.
Topanga.
No, like the quarry with a Q. I'm saying the Q. I'm pronouncing the Q now. Quarries.
Sean, bring your mic around a little bit so everyone can see your beautiful face. Just bring it toward Colin. There you go.
Now the thing about the quarry is,
better.
I feel like they exist in real life. You see them.
Absolutely,
You go
they
there.
absolutely exist in real life.
I've shot guns there. I've been there with the police while they shot guns there. But I feel like quarries are really the star in young adult fiction. It seems like somebody's always drowning in the quarry. Something bad's always happening in the quarry.
Yeah.
Back me up here. Some short stories you read about the quarries?
The only rock quarry I can think of reference right now from like something you're talking about is Garden State. They go shout at the quarry. This is just something the young people do in movies and TV show, I think.
Well, you got a lot of angst.
Yeah.
You got to have some place to shout where no one can hear you, but then maybe someone can hear you, and then they're like, I've always been in love with that Sean Finnegan. And then you're like, oh, he's
I gotta
yelling.
go
you
shout
sit-
in this
Let's go
quarry."
shout in the quarry with him, and then you guys bond, and then it's like, what up?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you didn't know, the Game Over Greggy show is simple. Each week, 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather around this table, each bringing a random topic of discussion for your amusement. If you like that, there are a number of ways to get it. God damn it, Colin.
Sorry.
Just settle
Why is there a
down.
Sharpie on the table?
Because we didn't clean the table off. We got locked up and what the gel should be and everything else. There's a
big
number of
deal?
ways to get the show. Each and every Friday, you can go to kindafunny.com and you can get it either on Patreon. Go there, you support us, so you can get the video or the MP3. You can go to Bandcamp, buy the MP3 all by itself, or you can go to Vimeo, buy the video all by itself. A number of ways to get it.
So many ways. It's
Now,
so
if you don't think we're worth any of the money, don't worry, we don't either. That's why you go to youtube.com/kindafunny starting the Monday after, and the show goes up topic by topic for your amusement. Sean,
Yes.
historically guests get to go first, but
Ooh.
today on Twitter, on the way home, somebody tweeted an image. It's got to be my topic of the week. We need to talk about it. It's
Okay.
breaking news. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Oh man, this is a tough one.
This is a very tough one. It's a question I had never thought of. And the image popped up on the thing. It was from the Independence with Kennedy, of course. We know her well, the VJ. Not personally. We'd love to have you on the show, Kennedy. Come on the show sometime. Everyone tweet at Kennedy. Tell her to come on.
tweet
the
at
Game Over
John
Greggy
F.
show.
Kennedy.
Nope.
And
nope.
have
nope.
him come on
Don't
the
do
show,
any of these things.
Which is weird. I did not know he was a.
President.
Just stop, please.
Okay.
Okay. There's no Tim for you to verbally spar with this
I don't
week.
like it. I don't like
So
my
just-
I like Sean a lot, but it's gonna be much more of an intelligent conversation.
Yes.
I can
so
dumb it
back to
down.
the question about the hot dog.
Yeah.
They had the image up there and it was being mocked that on the internet. Oh, 5 people are discussing this, yada yada. And then I thought more about it after the initial ha ha ha. Fox News and the Independents talking about hot dogs being sandwiches. Are they? Aren't they? That's stupid. Then I was like, wait a second. Are hot dog sandwiches?
So let's break this down before we start.
Well, I'm gonna pull the old Colin Moriarty. Ready my computer.
All right. So
Are you gonna look up what's the definition?
Oh,
of
I have it
sandwiches?
all ready to go.
yeah,
I think I have an idea
Can
of
we
what-
talk? Can we?
Well,
can
I'd like to talk to each other right now. Talk through some of it.
I already know the answer.
What's happening in your gut before we get down here to brass tacks?
So this is what I think. I feel like the defining characteristic of a sandwich is that it can have multiple sort of ingredients in it, and they're all sort of their own ingredient on their own. Whereas a hot dog, while it may have other things in there besides the hot dog, it's all condiments, right? Like in a turkey and ham sandwich, you have both turkey and ham, but you can have ham and turkey on their own, and it is still a type of food or a type of meat. And you can kind of mix them up, and that's what makes a sandwich. You can have all kinds of things in it.
Sure.
But in a hot dog, there's only ever the hot dog. You don't have another type of meat in there. You have relish and sort of.
You got bacon in it.
I was gonna say, what about a bacon wrapped hot dog?
What about a Frankfurter?
But those aren't really like. That's not a sandwich either. That supports my argument.
I'm just saying that there's meat inside of this other than a condiment. Is what I'm saying there.
That's true.
I'd like to.
I don't know.
For the sake of discussion, can we look up the definition of sandwich?
No, that is ready to go. I wanted to have a conversation before we come in here.
I already know the answer to the question.
Ooh.
It's obvious. The hot dog is a sandwich. Now, think about it this way, right? You were saying like the ham and the turkey and all these things.
But here's where it breaks down. What happens when you put the hot dog, like remember when you were kids and you just wanted a hot dog, but you didn't do the bun to hot dog ratio correctly when you bought them?
So you had the hot dog that was too small or too big. Yeah.
No, you only had one hot dog left.
Oh,
no
I see.
buns.
Okay.
Then that's when you made the hot dog sandwich. So you can't put a sandwich inside of a sandwich.
No, but you're looking at it all wrong. You're looking at it all wrong. It's a sandwich inception, but you're looking at it from the wrong point of view. What is the difference between a hot dog and a sub when it comes down to it? Think about it. You have a piece of bread that you sliced open, but it's still one piece of bread.
Right.
So it's like folded over. You put meat in it and whatever you want.
Some sort of processed meat.
Exactly. And then you fold it over and you eat it. Now, would you contest that a hero, or as we call them in New York, or a sub or a hoagie is not a sandwich? Of course you wouldn't.
You're not saying
sandwich.
you're not mispronouncing gyro, right? You're saying hero.
Hero, no, exactly. In New York we call those gyros in New York.
Because this is, by the way, a slippery slope. If you go hot dog's a sandwich, what happens to what's a gyro?
I would consider that a type of sandwich as well, because it's a pocket.
I mean, my whole world is turning upside down right now.
Just think about it, because at the very least we can admit that the submarine sandwich and the hot dog are essentially the same thing. It's a piece of meat, right? Mm-hmm. And just other shit packed into a piece of bread that you then fold over and you eat it. Just like with the ham, you put ham, cheese, and onions and mayonnaise and whatever, and you fold it over and you eat that. It's the same thing. A hot dog is definitively a sandwich. We might not call it a sandwich, but by its definition, it is indeed a sandwich.
Because you are basically taking something and sandwiching it in between
precisely
two pieces of bread. Now the bread is connected, so it is one piece of bread, but you're folding it over, just like when you were a kid and you only had one piece of bread.
But so is a submarine. If you make a sub right, it's also one piece of bread.
So is the argument that the definition at its core is that if anything is in between two pieces of bread, or one piece of bread that's folded over, it's a sandwich?
Sure.
I guess that makes sense, right? You can have a grilled cheese sandwich. It's just cheese. You don't need meat.
So does a hamburger become a sandwich if the bread isn't cut?
See, we're going too far.
It is a sandwich.
This is part of the debate.
Far.
A hamburger is a sandwich.
You're ruining my childhood.
It is a sandwich.
Yeah.
We just don't we don't have to call everything implicitly a sandwich when we order it. But if we have to fucking categorize it, well, a spade's a spade and a sandwich is a sandwich.
See, that's the problem, is that I think the definition of sandwich implies right now, if you're like, I want a sandwich, it can be anything. Mm-hmm. You put anything in there. I don't think people ever think hot dog. If I want a hot dog, you know what you're getting. You're getting a hot dog. I love Portillo's hot dogs. I know what I'm getting when I go there, right? I don't say I'm in the mood for a sandwich, end up with a hot dog. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying, this definition-wise here. I'm just saying I think the popular opinion definition is what's screwing it up.
Maybe it's just a subdividing categorical thing where it's like all like hamburgers, subs, and hot dogs, they're all sandwiches, but not every sandwich is a hot dog or a hamburger, right? It's
so you're saying
a hierarchical.
You're saying the sandwich is the what's the scientific term when it's like the wolf's dogs? They're all part of the same genome.
No,
genus.
It's a
Species.
genus. Yeah.
Genus. So the sandwich is the species, and then the breakdowns in underneath it can go all the way into a wide range of different things.
That's a fucking deep cut.
Dictionary.com
That's a biological deep cut.
describes sandwich as
love the branding
a
on that
noun.
channel, by
They
the
have
way.
some ruffles on there. 1, 2 or more slices of bread or the like with a layer of meat, fish, cheese,
Yeah, or the
etc.
like. What the hell
does that
between
a
each
bread
pair.
substitute?
Or the like.
Yeah, something in
That's
there.
too not specific for a dictionary.
Nutella. That's saying you can put Nutella between bread.
No,
and there.
that's not how I read
Well, you
that.
can though.
It says that's not how I read it.
All right, let me hear it.
2 or more slices of bread or the like.
Yeah, so the substitute
It's not
could be
talking
for the
about
bread.
Yeah.
What would you put
that
in
could
a
be
sandwich
tortilla.
besides bread?
Oh, now we're on to, is a burrito a sandwich?
That was
Possibly.
where I was going. It's like,
Oh,
what's the difference between a
no.
burrito and a gyro? They're both wrapped.
I can't deal with this.
Dictionary.com defines a hot dog as one,
world.
a frankfurter, two, a sandwich consisting of a frankfurter in a split roll, usually eaten with mustard, sauerkraut, or relish. Mustard, buddy, right there in black and white.
That abomination.
Now, of course, it wouldn't be the Game Over Greggy show without you, so I went on the Kinda Funny Vids Twitter, tweeted out, I want to know what's happening. Christopher Williams tweets, who the hell thinks a hot dog is a sandwich?
I do, Christopher Williams.
Alex wants...
Your boy Colin.
Alex Harbosh, nope. Sure, it's meat between two buns, but a hot dog has deserved its own title and definition since cavemen.
Oh, the cavemen were rocking.
They were
hot
all
dogs.
over there,
No doubt about it.
It's the first thing they made. They discovered fire and then immediately
They were like, hot
processed
dogs.
5 different animals into one thing.
Trevor
Sandwich.
Lacochea says, no, it's an experience.
It is an experience, but so could other sandwiches be an experience.
A Reuben is an experience. First time I had a Reuben, it blew my mind.
Yeah. And no one could test the Reuben's status as a sandwich.
And it has sauerkraut in it, just like the hot dog.
So then the question becomes then,
Yeah.
where does this madness end? Is a burrito a sandwich?
I think I'm going to go back to the whole hierarchical thing and say yes, but not like all burritos are sandwiches, but not all sandwiches are burritos type thing.
Okay, so that's just logic right there.
Well, if we, they all
true.
fit into the sort of grander, sort of more generic term for things that you put inside other things.
I'm gonna throw this out at you.
Here it comes.
You ever been to Costco?
Yes.
You know how they have the chicken bacon
Ooh.
thing? I can't remember what it's called. It's a chicken bacon with like a wrap, but it's made out of. Kevin, do you know what I'm talking about? The chicken bake. Is that a sandwich?
The
'Cause
chicken bake, what is it?
It's a chicken bake. They basically take chicken, bacon, cheese, roll it up into dough, and then bake it.
Oh my God.
Well, here's the is any
Good.
side of
So
it
good.
is any side of it open ended?
No,
Is a calzone a sandwich?
Then it's a calzone, yeah.
but it's a calzone sandwich.
Oh dear.
Because then we just got meat in the middle. It's sandwiched in between. It doesn't matter if they're closed. There's nothing in the definition says.
Didn't it say
you can't
2
be
or
able
more?
to access
Two
the meat
or
until
more
you eat
slices
it.
of bread,
or the like.
with
Yeah.
a layer of...
Or the like.
We need a petition to get this more specific. There's not enough specific in this. Specificity.
There's conflict in the definitions though, because they say 2 or more pieces of bread or the like, but then on another site they say the hot dog is the sandwich. And a hot dog can't be a sandwich because it's only one piece of bread, which is the definition of why I think the submarine sandwich and the hot dog are close cousins. It's like the Neanderthal and it's like the Neanderthal man and the Cro-Magnon man.
Yeah.
They were similar species. Obviously, we're descended
wolf
from
and the
Cro-Magnon.
husky. Yeah.
But they're very similar. The sub and the hot dog came from the same place.
They're cut from the
The
same.
Fertile Crescent of sandwiches.
Wow.
Yeah. And then they split, and you have a calzone over here. You got a burrito over there.
They all share
You know
a
what's funny
common
is I bet
ancestor.
they actually do come from close territories. If you look at the actual hoagie and the hot dog, because someone was like this. Hey, you know how you've been taking that piece of bread and cutting it in half and stuffing some meat in there? We're in Germany now. Let's just take this hot dog or this frankfurter and stuff it in that same thing, and boom, we got a whole new thing. And then the other person's like, no, it's not a new thing. It's an iteration of the thing that came before it.
At the genetic level, you're right. I mean, I'm not sure. It's like the difference between humans and apes. Mm-hmm. Only a little bit of the genome's
Or
different.
orangutans.
Orangutans, like Cheetos.
What up, Cheetos?
She does?
I don't know, Greg. I gotta kind of definitively. I mean, the thing is that I'm not comfortable calling a burrito a sandwich. When you get the tortilla involved, it's a different thing. It's there. It's associated with the sandwich, but it's like a different species.
I guess
every definition of sandwich we're on Wikipedia here, and it comes down to slices of bread. That seems to be
Or the like.
the definitive. Yeah, but like you're not like I think you'd have a better chance for me making the case that a quesadilla is a sandwich than
yes.
a burrito.
Yes.
A burrito
What
is
is a
one
quesadilla?
tortilla wrapped up, and it's this thing.
Well, see, I think you said the magical word there, wrap. That's its
that's a
own
wrap.
species of things, right? Then
True,
when you're
true.
wrapping things, the whole spring rolls are a wrap, right? That's
Yeah.
not a sandwich. It's
Yeah.
tubular.
The Wikipedia entry for calzone makes
Radical.
no mention of sandwich and is filed
Gnarly.
under part of a series on pizza. So I think that knocks that one out.
The whole or the like thing really makes it very ambiguous because
Yeah.
it could be interpreted as like maybe it doesn't have to be bread because it's bread or the like. But they say also 2 or more, so that the or the like could also hint at maybe it's one piece of bread as long as it's folded in such a way where it could be 2, similar to a sub.
But isn't that a calzone? Don't you just pinch the edges and boom, you got
But
a
calzones
sandwich?
aren't open on any side. It's like no matter which way, until you bite into it, it's one piece of bread, right?
That's the chicken bacon.
calzones
as well.
are so good.
I want a calzone right now.
Who was it? Was it
Big
you
Stein
who was
wants
telling
a
me the other day
calzone?
that they've never eaten a Hot Pocket before?
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah.
Me and
How'd you
Robert Kirkman have never eaten a Hot
How did you
Pocket.
get through college?
Easy Mac.
Oh,
But
Easy Mac's good.
here's the
Mac
thing
was
I
good.
proposed to Robert Kirkman. Spoiler alert for part of a video I don't think you'll ever see because I don't think we talked
Yeah,
about
I
it in
don't
the
think it
video.
makes the cut. Yeah.
Is I've never had a Hot Pocket. So I don't, but I feel like I can make jokes and comment on Hot Pockets because I've had Tostino pizza rolls, which are mini Hot Pockets.
Not the same.
That's a
though.
stretch.
They are though because
That's a
you're gonna get
stretch.
cold spots in both.
I'm
That's
sure
a
they
stretch.
taste the same.
No, first of all,
It all tastes
I used
the
to
same.
love the meatball and mozzarella Hot Pocket when I was in high school. I used to go through those like it was insane. I'd go through like 6 or 7 boxes of those a week. And I used to make Lipton butter noodles before I'd go to hockey games. I'd just eat an entire package of them and carb up. It was probably like 3,000 calories.
3,000
carbs.
But horror story about Hot Pockets, just as an aside.
Sure.
I've never eaten one since. I was a senior in high school. I used to make Hot Pockets. You put them in the little thing so they get hot, like the little metallic thing.
Hot Pocket.
And then I would always cut them in half because they were so atomic in the fucking middle.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't possibly eat them without cooling them off.
Like a Tostino's pizza.
But one time it was moldy.
Oh, you cut it open, it was moldy?
Yeah.
How does that happen?
I don't know.
They're frozen.
I don't know.
That's gross.
But and that was the last time I had a Hot Pocket.
Yeah.
My horror story is we used to throw wild parties at my parents' house and we'd go away.
With Hot Pockets.
And the only thing, yeah, of course, we would be hungry at night. We'd eat like 4 or 5 Hot Pockets. My friend was intoxicated, so much so to the point where I woke up in the middle of the night. He was sleeping over because we were responsible about anything we wanted to do. And I looked over and he was just laying in a pool of half vomit, half Hot Pocket. And I to this day, that sight was so disgusting. I had to the blankets that he was sleeping in, I had to wash like 5 times. So every time I take them out, there was more Hot Pocket still. I have not been able to stomach a Hot Pocket since. I can't even look at them.
Hot
without
Pocket
thinking
horror
about
stories
that.
could be a whole.
And it wasn't even
series.
like the good Hot Pocket, like you're talking about the meatball or the pepperoni
was it
Hot
a lean
Pockets.
pocket?
It was like a beef Hot Pocket or something
Oh,
weird like that.
damn.
Oh god, it was terrible.
Lean Pockets were good. Lean Pockets were good because they had a softer crust.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Is that where that's where they cut the
I don't
corners?
know. I don't know. I just my dad used to buy them sometimes because I don't think my dad actually looks at anything when he
Yeah.
buys it.
Colin likes this crap. I'm gonna go get some kale.
My dad's like pretty much a straight like vegetarian, so he has like all this weird shit in the house all the time. And by the way, I went home. I think I told the story, but I went home like a few months ago rather, and I got like McDonald's or something when I was home, and I like went to get ketchup out of the fridge, and the ketchup went bad in 2008. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing? 'Cause he's like, I don't eat ketchup. That's probably from like when you were in college. And I'm like, good,
It's just
Dad.
been sitting
Time to
there?
throw it away. And it was,
Yeah.
to be perfectly honest with you, to his credit, it was total. I didn't eat it, but I tasted it a little bit. It was totally fine.
Oh yeah.
Well, you think
It went bad 6 years ago, but it was totally fine.
My mom does that sometimes because she tends to freeze things or put things in the refrigerator and thinks that is just enough
That'll stop it.
to preserve them forever. So I went over to her house. We make pizza every time I go. Which when you guys ever come down to Riverside, we gotta throw pizzas. It's the bomb. And I was like, wow, you have any black olives for this pizza? Because I love pepperoni pizza with black olives. It's one of the best. She's like, yeah, I have a whole tub of them out in the outside because she has this 2. In Southern California, everyone's got a garage, so they have 2 refrigerators because God knows they need more.
Is it the 2 refrigerators or was it the
No, it's not an
horizontal
old
freezer that I love so
my
much?
Uncle Danny had that back in the day where you could like
Get
hide
some-
a dead body in it.
Exactly,
If you had
some venison in there, and
They
then
would
just
just, like,
a bunch of goddamn popsicles.
5 pounds of ice just baked onto the side of it.
Yeah.
Those are gross.
So I go out to get the tub, and I'm like, I start putting them on there, and I'm like, they don't smell right. And my mom, if there's anything about her that I love, she likes to pinch pennies. She does not like to waste, and she likes to get every ounce of everything out of it. Like she'll scrape with a spatula peanut butter jars and put them into smaller jars so she can get every little ounce out of it. She goes, they're fine. I'm like, when did you open these up? She's like, well, we buy a big vat of them. They just stay in there. And I'm like, Mom, but
For
olives
years.
like go bad fast. These are not things that have tremendous amounts of salt or preservatives. It's not a cured meat. And she's like, no, it's fine. And I was like, fine, I'll put it on, but I'm not eating this pizza. And we got in an argument about it. I put it on. I think my brother ate the pizza and he had like the worst stomach ache
Yeah.
later. But I was like, I won. But then
I won.
my brother lost.
Did you look at the date? Was there a date?
No, because she takes them out of the thing and puts them into Tupperware.
So you don't know.
So you don't know.
Yeah, that's smart. She's smart.
And she likes to reuse Ziploc bags. She's the only woman on the planet that I know reuses. She washes out Ziploc bags and then turns them inside out and puts them on the dish dryer.
That's a Jerry Moriarty, and my girlfriend does that.
It's well known that Colin, we love him. he likes to pinch the penny too. Not as hard as his father, sure.
I don't wash the bags.
I know, but literally I came home and I thought we had turned the corner and Colin had finally gone to crazy town because I came in, I turned on the kitchen light and there's all these Ziploc bags over, and it was like a day later I saw you and I was just like, man, that is some next level cheap shit. And you're like, actually, Cheryl. And I was like, oh, so I don't feel comfortable making fun of Cheryl, but
No, well, you can. She's fine with that. But the funny thing about my dad with that is that his whole line, we always made fun of him like our whole lives because we always had like outdated random shit because he literally, I mean, he cares, but he literally doesn't care in the sense that he doesn't have to eat it. So like, he's like, I got vegetables and they do go bad, and so I'm just gonna eat my vegetables, my yogurt, and my whatever the fuck I eat, my granola. But his whole line is always like, it's fine. It's fine. That's like always, and like that we've been making fun of that for years, and he's been dating this woman for like years now, and she just like tears into him, like makes fun of him for that shit. And it's finally good to have like an ally that like my dad will listen to, where he'll actually throw away the mayonnaise that he bought, before 9/11.
It's got like the Michael Keaton Batman tie-in on it.
Yeah, it's like so old that it's like in a glass jar. You know what I mean? Like, he's a funny dude.
No, my mom's probably got some of those too. They should get together and hang out.
Have a glass jar mayonnaise party.
My mom's she will not throw things away if it's food. Anything else she'll throw away, but if it's food, we gotta keep it. It's like some Depression era shit.
Yeah, it's weird that like folks buy so like our parents buy so much too. Like my dad's like, oh, it was on sale. I'm like, yeah, but you're just throwing it out.
Oh no, my mom.
I'm gonna be here once a year.
Right.
I told you about that conversation I had with my mom. I was like, you got to stop buying junk food. I'm too chubby as a kid. I was a kid. I was super chubby. I was very, very fat.
Then the shadow boxing clicked in.
That's what
T-shirts available districtlines.com/kindafunny.
A shadow boxer. It found me actually. I didn't find it.
That's how it is. Yeah.
You don't find it. It finds you.
I thought it was always with you.
It is. That's the key. You have to unlock it.
I was gonna say the thing is that shadowboxing is inside all of us, but it's kind of like if you of course remember the whole Egypt story when the plagues.
Prince of Persia.
No, Prince of Persia. No, you had to put the blood above your door to stop the
mosquitoes
to the
plague.
Parallax from the Green Lantern movie. He would come in and kill the firstborn.
Yeah. We're off the deep end on this one.
Yeah.
It's also like The Village.
Why can't I think of what the fuck was coming to kill everyone in this Old Testament story that I had to hear year after year?
Isn't it the scarab things?
No, it was.
I don't think it's I think it's just.
That was like a plague.
Wasn't
it God?
Was
it God?
Wasn't there like a bunch of things that happened to them?
Well, the firstborns was the thing that was avoided, right? I know.
Well, no, that was the whole thing. Is that I can't fucking believe. I know, right? I can't believe that I'm blanking on this story that I literally had to hear every year.
So I need to look it up.
Yeah. But I'm gonna piece it together.
It was 3 things, right?
The Pharaoh had said he was going to.
Yeah, the Pharaoh was going to kill all the firstborns. That's one thing.
And so, but then to stop it, the Jews knew that they had to go put lamb's blood over the door to protect and then the
protect them from something.
Oh, was it tell them that they
don't come in here? Yeah, don't come in here.
Yeah, that sounds
Stay out of here,
that
God.
Sounds right. That sounds.
Was
right.
it God that did this though?
I can't remember. I know the story. I went to Catholic.
Well, God sent down. Oh, that's it.
We
that's
all
it.
went to
Hold
Catholic.
on, we're there. We're there.
No, not. Oh no, Nick didn't. You didn't.
So this is the story of Moses. And God was raining plagues on Egypt.
Yes.
To make the Pharaoh let the people go.
Yes.
And so that's what it was. Lamb's blood above the door protected all of the Jewish folk.
Oh,
and
from the Egyptians who he was going to strike down.
Right.
Okay.
And then
so it was God who did it.
Yeah, but I still just picture a black cloud coming in and killing everything. But you'd think God would be smarter than that. God could send out a smart plague.
Well, he also just decided to flood the earth at one point and was like, "Oh,
that worked out in our benefit, though. Look at us now."
Yeah, now we have boats.
Well,
we probably had boats before that, though. You would assume.
No one knows.
Otherwise, how would he know how to build it?
I was looking it up, and now I'm just checking.
I was gonna say now you're searching Sean Finnegan on
Twitter.
Twitter.
In the movie, there's
we nailed it. We don't have to worry about it.
Also, this was adapted in The Village when the big red monster guys would come, right? And they like.
I remember that. Is that what their shtick was? I forget.
There's something about them going into not going into certain places because they were marked or something, right? I don't know.
Sure, I don't remember.
I love that movie. I don't even remember it.
I don't remember it. I do remember that I came out of it thinking the soundtrack was really good.
It's another movie I saw late, and I was like, "Yeah, this is fun. Why everybody hate this?"
It's one of my movies where I was like, "I like that M. Night Shyamalan."
It's where
I was big on the M. Night train for man.
Well, his first 3 films were unequivocally good, like just straight up good.
Sixth Sense.
Yeah, Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, and then Signs.
Yeah, those were awesome.
Yeah,
Unbreakable doesn't get the credit.
Signs gets a lot of hate, but I actually really like
Signs.
Yeah, like I think.
Awesome.
on a philosophical level and maybe on a story level it doesn't quite work, but the tone and the mood of it is just so sinister and kind of like foreboding.
Well, I remember, if you remember, that was this is the kind of shit that they would never let fly anymore, of course, for like trailers and whatnot. But I remember going to see that on opening night and thinking the entire thing was going to be about crop circles because that's all they had shown. I thought there was going to be signs in the signs that aliens had come or whatever. And then spoilers if you haven't seen signs yet. Like, I'll never forget when Joaquin Phoenix is watching the shaky cam front. He's like, "Vamonos, children, vamonos!" And then the alien comes out, and it's like, "Holy shit!" This movie is on another level.
That's a terrifying moment.
Yeah.
Also, when they first spot it's a dark night, and they look out the window across the way to like their neighbor's house, and they see like a shadowy figure on the roof. And then all of a sudden, it's fucking gone.
Yeah.
Like that moment is just very sends shivers down my spine, man. It's good.
So hot dogs are sandwiches.
Correct.
Unfortunately,
I don't. It's one of those I don't feel in my heart, but my brain knows it to be true.
I'm never going to admit it. I'm never going to call
a
hot dog a sandwich from this point on ever again. I'm never.
I feel like it opens up a lot of fun times though to be had, where you're just like, girlfriend's like, "What do you want for dinner?" You're like, "Sandwiches," and you come home and it's just cold cuts. And you're like, "Where's the fucking hot dogs?" And then you go to Portillo's.
You could shave if you had a machine. You could shave the hot dog in the cold cuts. No one would know.
Yeah. You ever do that where you cut up the hot dog and put it in mac and cheese? Something like that?
Yeah, I've cut up a hot dog in my day.
Yeah. We have a story too. Portillo's. I did a meet and greet there when I was home this past weekend.
Can't you just have a dinner, Greg?
Can't I just have a dinner? So I'll have you know that I got there. Everyone's asking me about Linda. Every fan in this audience is asking me about Linda.
I forgot about that.
They opened up this. I'd called ahead to this Portillo's and tried to rent. They have a party room up front that you can rent for like $100. And I got through the phone tree, and then they're like, "Oh, we don't rent it on the weekends. We don't, you're never not sure how busy it's going to be, so you can't rent it. You could maybe get it if it's open." I'm like, "All right." I went there. As soon as I got there, 250 kids were there. It was awesome. It's crazy. And they were like, "All right, we're opening the room for you." And they just gave it to me for free and put me in there. But the lady who did it was like, "All right, there you go, Greg," because other people had explained to her who I was. And I'm like, "Thank you." And I'm like, "Wait, are you Linda?" And she's like, "No, everyone keeps asking that. Linda doesn't work here." It turns out that I've been calling the Portillo's in Bloomingdale and not on Bloomingdale Road. So we're calling and bugging a woman named Linda who isn't even working at the Portillo's. That's my home base.
That's the
worst. So I dropped the ball on that
one.
She lost
her job probably because
they were trying to fire Linda at Glendale Heights, I imagine. It's like, there's no Linda here. I don't know who's answering our phone under this pseudonym.
Number 7, you're now in heaven.
There you go. That was a real one.
Yeah.
You did a good job.
Yeah,
you love Portillo's.
I do. I was so morbid when we went to VidCon.
Oh, God.
I had like so much food. It was like not even... It's just so good. Oh, my God. Portillo's is good. It's up there with Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
And Five Guys.
I put it up there above Chick-fil-A.
Oh, it's good. Get out of here with that.
I agree with that, but I grew up on it. I'm biased. Sean, you're the guest. Now you get to go that we've settled the hot topic. I'd like to know your topic for the evening.
So my topic came from a little bit of background. We all read Wikipedia. Colin and I were talking off the air about it, but like, these Wikipedia holes that you get sucked into.
Sure.
You jump on the site and you're researching or you're reading about something you're interested in, and then all of a sudden something else pops up and it's hyperlinked, and you just open that new tab.
You think you're there for a sandwich, then you're on a hot dog, then you're on a calzone, then you're on a pizza.
So this came out of one of those. I had watched an episode of Cosmos, and Neil deGrasse Tyson was talking about how the genius among geniuses was this guy Isaac Newton, and I thought it was really interesting, so I went on Wikipedia and started reading about Isaac Newton, and I got sucked into this more scientific mathematical hole about all these things that I don't understand because I am not a physicist. But it comes from this. Mathematics, is it something that we invented or did we discover it? And the reason being, I was reading about gravity, and supposedly when Isaac Newton had the apple fall on his head and discovered the law of gravity, he found that it was a constant anywhere on the planet for any object, 9.8 meters per second squared. And to me, that is kind of the basis for the theory that it's not something that we invented, that it's a property that just exists in the universe and we just happen to kind of stumble upon it. But a lot of people that I've discussed this with seem to think that that's not at all what it is. So I wanted to get your guys' thoughts.
Well, I think that as far as mathematics go, mathematics is just a language, right? So we invented a language to describe these things that we discovered, I think is my outlook on it.
Yeah, see, I guess that's the thing is like if you went to Pluto and there's aliens there, right, and they're talking about gravity and everything, they might count in different things, right? It's not going to be, what was it, meters you said? 9.8 meters? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not going to be like that, right? It'll be cubes, arbs.
Right. So I guess that's the question then is...
Are you from Pluto?
We making a distinction between the actual like symbols and arithmetic that we use to calculate the laws. But what about the laws themselves? Like,
no, the laws are natural.
There we go. So if they've always existed and have existed since before we were around, must have been something we discovered, right?
Yeah, we discovered it. We discovered math because it's like you were talking about gravity. Gravity is a universal constant, just like thermodynamics or electromagnetism. Like these things exist everywhere. And for all of our science to work, they must be universal. That's like the whole principle of physics, is that like it must work everywhere. And if things start to break down, like that's why black holes are very complicated, for instance, because it disrupts the rules of physics. Math exists, and 1 + 1 is 2 everywhere in the universe. It's just a matter of like how you get there. Now, Isaac Newton's interesting because he technically invented like trigonometry and stuff like that. But again, like that existed. It was just we didn't know how to talk about it or prove it, as it were. So to me, like science is as natural as anything. Like and math is as natural as anything. Like these things exist, and there's so much we don't know, but we figure out a language, like you said, to talk about it.
Yeah.
We talk about it from time to time, and it reminds me of Contact, like the Carl Sagan book and movie, when
Jodie Foster movie.
Yeah, when
Matthew McConaughey.
When they understand, like the aliens receive the Berlin Olympic transmission and send it back with mathematical math encoded in it, and the way that they do math is totally different than the way they write their notation is totally different, but we understood it because that is the universal language or whatever.
Right.
They didn't try to talk to us; they gave us numbers, and so
numbers.
Yeah, and they use, like, if I remember correctly, like lines and dots, I think was like the way they like
binary.
Yeah, and we use Arabic numbers like typically, but Romans had their own way. Like think about it, like the way the Romans expressed 2 and the way the Arabic system expresses 2 is different, but they mean the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's why I think it holds true. It's just like the written word for us, right? Like it's just a language to describe the various things that we can observe in nature. That's all the written word is, really. And the same with math. Like, I don't think you can discover something. I think math was inherently invented. It was just invented as a language to describe the things that we discovered. I'm standing by that.
Yeah, I mean, the way we express it, but like math is like I said, that's natural. Like, we just didn't know how to. Cavemen realize that's not even a good example. When we started like animal husbandry or we started like agriculture, certainly like really primitive peoples were like, we have to segment half of the seeds for now and half of the seeds for later, 50% for now, 50% for later. They probably didn't know how to express that, right? Ultimately, like through time, they were like, this is a percentage, we need half of it. The half always existed. The way of splitting something down the middle existed, but they didn't know how to express it until they did. But it always existed. Same thing when you were talking about with Isaac Newton. Like gravity existed. Gravity's existed for 13.7 billion years. It's just a matter of, we didn't understand it. We didn't understand like what kept everything falling downward, including us, always falling downward. So but that existed. We just didn't understand it until 400 years ago.
I think the biggest case for it being something that we discovered is that it works everywhere, right? Like the constants don't change. Like light always travels at the same constant in a vacuum, no matter where you are, no matter what is happening. And for it to, it's weird because I've talked to people who are very convinced that it's something that we invented. Like,
that we invented math.
Yeah, that it's not part of the natural world. It just happens to be the language which we describe natural phenomena. And somehow they they divorce the two. And I don't know, it struck me as very strange because it seems to be pretty divisive. I think we're all on the same page here, being rational people.
Yeah, I don't understand that argument simply because think about it like this. Splitting an atom, right? Like there's a way to split the atom, and we're not the only civilization that's split the atom, certainly in the galaxy or in the universe. The math to get to that point must be identical. It's just a matter of like how you express it, but like the answer is the same. Like it's the same as 1 + 1 = 2. It's the same as splitting the atom. It's the same as by the way, I said Isaac Newton invented trigonometry, invented calculus.
Get out of here with your broke ass shit.
But but the 1 + 1 is always 2. So like if 1 + 1 is always 2, then how can you possibly reach another conclusion scientifically that isn't the same even if you express it differently? The answer has to be the same. The thing about math is that there is an answer.
Yeah.
It's not like a humanity where there's an interpretation. There is no interpretation.
That's exactly what I was about to say, is like math is the only absolute truth that we know of, right? Like the concepts may change and differ in terms of their interpretation, but the value is always the same. And it does that. It's that way throughout the whole universe that we know of.
Nick, what the fuck were you doing?
I was looking up that picture that Sean recommended me earlier about Michael Keaton.
So that's how you checked out on the math topic. You're like, we're done. It's done.
Math broke my brain.
I just looked over and there's a picture of the Incredible Hulk and Bill Bixby. I'm like,
no,
what?
You saw the article. Then.
Yeah, so Sean Finnegan tweeted at me earlier today and reminded me again to check my Twitter feed, Nick_Scarpino, for anyone that wants to follow me, that there's this really cool article that went up with some behind-the-scenes photos. We're getting a lot of those now. We're getting a lot of behind-the-scenes photos of these cool movies that we had with kids because there's, digital distribution is so widespread that the sharing of information is amazing and immediate. Sean just tweeted me a picture of it's a slideshow, and in the middle of the slideshow is Michael Keaton looking through a Panavision camera, the viewfinder of a Panavision camera in the Batman suit on set, which is, and he's just smiling like he knows this is going to be the coolest movie ever made, which it was.
That is an awesome picture.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's pretty amazing.
But back to math.
Yeah,
but back to math.
I personally said my piece on it. I think that's. I couldn't understand the argument otherwise.
I have trouble wrapping my head around it too. I think it comes from, I don't know. I hate to be presumptuous, but it comes from some belief in the supernatural or the religious, I think, somewhere in there. That's the only way I could figure justifying it.
That it's something we
something that we invented, or that it's not, that the values that are represented in the language of mathematical are not universal. I feel like in order to really believe that, you have to believe that what we've discovered about the universe was invented by someone else or something else.
It just doesn't make any sense. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, when you think about chemistry, like an atom, like, a molecule with 3 electrons thrown around, it's carbon everywhere. Everywhere. That is what it is. That's the definition of it. Carbon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's constant. And that is a term, that's not only a chemical term, it's a mathematical term. It's a mathematical way of understanding it, that you can identify something by how many electrons are going around it. That, like, the table of elements is consistent throughout the universe. And that is a mathematical fact.
But we don't just, we discovered the fact that there were 3 electrons circling around it, but what we call it is math and science. If that to someone on Pluto is going to be called completely, their science and their math is going to be completely different than ours. It's just their way of describing the things that are natural phenomena in the universe. So I don't think you can discover math. I don't think you can discover language the way you discover a mountain or fire, which is by happenstance. I just don't. I think the terminology there is just, it's off. We're splitting hairs and it's a semantic argument one way or the other, but I don't think you discover math. I think you.
Oh, carbon's atomic number 6.
Just fucking get your broke ass facts out of
He's
here.
2. He's 2 for 2 right
What
now.
is 3? What is it? It's
hydrogen,
helium, beryllium, right?
No, beryllium's heavy, isn't
Kevin?
it?
No way.
You boron.
Hydrogen, helium.
God, you know what I mean?
It's something.
Yeah.
It's
Like, let us
something
talk
random.
more.
Yeah.
It's one
not-
of those things
it's
where
not
we
boring.
drop to the spectrum. Usually
There's no way.
it's like Tim
Yeah.
and I over there in the stupid corner. Here you are, just chilling with us.
It feels good. It's
Lithium.
liberating.
Lithium is 3.
Yeah.
And
Then beryllium.
Beryllium's 4.
Yep.
Oh no, I was close.
B boron,
Beryllium.
C or 6 carbon.
Beryllium.
N is 7 nitrogen.
Nitrogen, yeah. Oxygen.
O, oxygen.
Now we've stooped to just reading the periodic table now.
When the aliens
to know.
show up, Colin, how are we gonna talk to them?
Math.
I don't know that we're going to talk to them.
I'll talk to him.
We'll let our guns do the talking.
No, they'll let their fucking weapons do the talking. We've talked about.
I'll
We
say
had
what's
a
up.
conversation about this, right? Was it a conversation with Colin? No, it was
I'll say
probably
what's
an
up,
episode.
We've
of this.
talked about like what if they're friendly. We've never actually talked about the semantics of how we're gonna sit down and communicate.
Yeah, but it probably has to be their math. But you have to assume that if they were able to travel here, that they might even be able to understand us.
Well, that wasn't that was Stephen Hawking's argument, is like there's almost a certainty that whatever intelligent life we end up first contacting, it's going to be far advanced. Like much further advanced than us. So far advanced that they may not even be able to recognize us as intelligent species. Like, it'd be the same thing as looking as humans looking at ants, right? Like, we have no discernible way of telling if they're intelligent. They do some things that hint at intelligence, like they work together, for instance, to protect themselves, and they have like they protect their queen and they build structures and stuff.
But then they do dumb shit like keep coming in our kitchen. There's no food there.
Or
Stop
like
it.
you've seen how they all follow pheromone trails. So if one gets thrown off, the whole colony just dies because they just follow the ant in front of them and they just go in circles forever until they die.
Yeah,
every one of them. So it's like, if they really are that advanced, is there any possibility that we have of communicating with them? Probably not, right? we can barely even go to. We don't even go to the moon anymore. And as far as we know, there's no intelligent life within any observable part of the universe right now. So if they come, they must come from really, really far, which means their technology's got to be super advanced. We may not even know that they're there. Like, they could just be right outside the solar system, just chilling. We would have no idea.
What if they were on their way and they shot right past us because someone wasn't checking their iPhone, and now they're on their way back, but it's going to take a little while.
Wait, what? Repeat? I'm so confused.
Nick was swinging for the fences on that one. Trying to get. He was like,
why would the guy with the iPhone
inside Nick's head? He's like, I gotta get off the bench. Here I come.
I'm trying to get back into the combo.
Nick,
unsuccessfully.
We'll get back to we'll kick it to you right now.
Okay.
What's your topic?
My topic, of course, comes from our amazing community of best friends. If you have a topic for the show, please tweet at Nick_Scarpino your topic. Follow me on Twitter. That's where all the topics come, and I will pick one at random or one that I feel is not random that I want to talk about. Like,
or I'll just do whatever the fuck I want.
At Ryan_Dinsdale.
Dinsdale.
Way to go on the underscore.
Mr. Dinsdale.
Repping the underscore.
Real men have underscores. Who says, if you could absorb the knowledge of any human that ever existed, who would it be and why?
Isaac Newton.
Why? You have to answer why.
You're going to die like scurvy or hepatitis, something stupid. Good job.
I'm just so up on this Cosmos episode where he's like a genius among geniuses.
Wasn't Newton like a introvert, though? Didn't he have like no friends?
I think he was a little...
Real quick. So we need. This is as usual. I have a million questions about this.
Okay,
yeah.
Let's define the terms here.
I'm sucking the knowledge, but I'm keeping myself.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
still
yourself.
me. I just get everything this person knew.
Yep.
And I can look through their memories and stuff.
Yeah, you everything, all the little twisted dark secrets, everything they know about sex and life and eating and what's a sandwich and what's not a sandwich.
Okay. Now I
Everything
might have
about
to change my
eating.
answer. If it's perspective and not just information, then I may have to change my answer.
It's anything. It's knowledge.
Right.
Knowledge is more than just,
Well, right. When you said
facts.
knowledge, yeah, I thought facts, information.
Yeah, but knowledge, and one can be knowledgeable about any subject.
Knowledge was their treasure.
Totally.
They gave us a crystal skull.
Let me go, Indy. This is what I want.
That movie ruined my mood for months.
Why would you do that?
That movie just soured. I don't even want to talk about it. I hate that movie. Let's not talk about it.
It was arguably the second best in the series. I just want you to know that.
The second best? Oh, Jesus.
Right behind
I'm
Young
kidding.
Indiana Jones.
I'm
the
joking.
book I read.
I would stay in science. I would go with Einstein. The reason I would go with Einstein is because he knew everything Isaac Newton knew already. Like that's why you don't want to go back too far, because like you could say something like, well, I'd want to be as smart. We talked about this like Aristotle and Socrates, but they were wrong about so much. Like even though they were smart, like they actually didn't know anything.
Mm-hmm.
They were really good at making it sound like they were super
well,
smart.
they observed the world around them and tried to figure things out based on what they knew, but they actually didn't know as much as they thought they did. And everyone built on their knowledge to get to the point where we were. Right. We have atomic energy now, or something like that. So wouldn't you want to like get with someone contemporary? That knew everything.
So is the answer Stephen Hawking then? Just steal it.
Yeah.
Well, my argument is
for
like
you guys. I'm thinking mine.
The power of knowledge that Isaac Newton had, at least as best as I can understand it, dwarfs that of any modern scientist, maybe save Einstein, because it's that knowledge that allowed him to invent things like calculus. Like the example that they used in Cosmos was that before Isaac Newton, the math didn't exist to explain why the orbits of the planets were elliptical and not circular, when in all theory they should be circular. And so to figure that out, he had to do something that no one had ever done before, and it was because of his immense knowledge that he was able to do that and now explain it. I would venture a guess that someone like that, even 200 years in the future, would be able to take the information and knowledge basis at their hands and be of great use, regardless of what time period
this
they're
guy's
in.
an extreme intellect, right? So no matter what, he would go and
vast
look at.
Intelligence.
By the time he was in high school, he would have figured out and learned everything that he needed to know about calculus, trigonometry,
totally,
algebra, any of the maths.
Mm-hmm.
The mathematics.
The romance languages, they call it.
And yeah, so the guy could extrapolate whatever he wanted to, right? I mean, you're talking about a genius level intellect here. Let's make no bones about it.
He's like a Professor X.
Yeah, like
he is.
I think to use a different example, like if
Magneto.
Mozart was such a master musician and a genius, just because he never played guitar doesn't mean he couldn't be a great guitarist, right? Like that's the way I look at it. But you are right, like especially in the sciences, which have come so far in such a short time, it may be more prudent to choose someone, I guess, a little bit more contemporary.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like I look at it as like a really drastic slope. Like it was like science and understanding was like very flat until the Renaissance, and which point now it's just like gone like way up. You know, like in the last 300 or 400 years, where it's absurd. So yeah, I would want to pick someone at the peak that was really smart, just because they wouldn't have to worry about the semantics of not understanding the contemporary science. But you're right. I mean, like Isaac Newton is considered like one of the great geniuses of all time. I mean, if we were talking about philosophy and all that kind of stuff, I think Thomas Jefferson would be a really interesting dude too. But he or Benjamin Franklin, like dudes that were just like gentlemen scholars, gentlemen scientists. That like did a lot of different things, like that were interested in a lot of things. So I could say, not that I consider myself Jefferson or Franklin, but I'm really inspired. I was really inspired by them as a kid to like want to like learn everything. I want to know a little bit about botany. I want to know a little bit about
how much
philosophy.
Do you know about botany?
I know quite a bit about botany.
Yeah.
In fact, I think I've said this to you before. Like when I went to college, I always knew I was going to major in history. I figured I was going to major in history when I was like 6 years old. I was like obsessed with history when I was a young kid, but I was always pulled in towards science, and I actually wanted to major in physics for a while and astronomy until I realized, when I was a little older, that I just could not do the math. Like it was not
too hard.
It was not even worth it. And one of the things that I wanted to do in science was I wanted to go into botany. Like I wanted to do history and archaeology. Archaeology wasn't practical.
Indiana Jones.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to be an archaeologist when I was a kid.
So I went to Jamestown when I was a kid. There's a really embryonic American archaeology movement now that things are getting old enough.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has to do with like Native Americans and old settlements and stuff like that. And I was like, that's cool. And I went to Jamestown. I got really inspired by it. But I was like too much science. Because you have to take like geology and stuff like that. Which is fine. That's fun. All this is fun. I love it all.
Rocks are boring.
I think rocks are boring.
I think all the most boring. The only science to me that I really didn't take to and like was biology. Like I really liked.
Also boring.
I loved chemistry. I loved like earth sciences, and I loved so botany and all those kinds of things I really enjoyed too, even though it's very biological. And I loved chemistry. And chemistry was probably the one I understood the best. But when I really got into physics, like I took an astronomy class in college that I thought was astronomy, and ended up being it was astrophysics, like 111 or something like that. It was taught by a dude. I think his name was Michael Swain, and he works at CERN in Europe, in Switzerland, and he would fly to Boston to teach a few classes and then fly back every week. And so I don't know like how much they were paying this guy. He was a really friendly dude, really nice guy, but that class was so hard. And that taught me like I can't even do the intro freshman level thing. So at that point I knew I didn't want to do it anyway, but I didn't have the aptitude, the scientific left-brained aptitude. I think it's left-brained to really deal with it. I'm a humanities guy. I'm a writer. And like I'm more abstract, so that even though I was always interested in botany and those kinds of things, but I understood at an early age that I don't think I had the acumen to do it,
to hack it.
Like it's hard. Like I know guys that are math. I knew a math major, like someone who majored in math in college, which I didn't even know was possible. Like I knew you could do it, but
shouldn't be allowed.
And she was smart as shit.
Yeah, my cousin is the same thing. She majored in applied mathematics at Berkeley, and it's like.
That's next level shit.
I looked at a lot of her homework back in the day, and there's not even numbers on the page. I don't get it. Like
just a bunch of symbols.
Yeah, it's all these symbols
Cosine,
and equations that I have no idea what I'm looking at.
A whole bunch of math.
Sine, cosine.
Yeah, exactly.
Kevin just wanted to interject with a fun fact that he said. Fun fact: calculus was also created by Leibniz at the exact same time.
I refuse to accept this fact. I will substitute my own reality.
So
it was invented by Newton.
He basically is telling you that you're a big fat bold liar.
Or maybe it was John Swain.
Tell it to Neil deGrasse Tyson.
3, Colin Moriarty.
I'm trying to find this because I haven't thought about him in a while. I remember seeing him, this particular professor. I didn't realize how prolific he was. He was actually a really modest dude, which is great. But I remember seeing him on the Discovery Channel like a few years after I had him. I was like, oh.
That's crazy. Well, if you're working at CERN, you're the real deal. You right?
Is that the big building that has a particle collider?
That's the Large Hadron Collider.
Yeah, here he is, John Swain, Northeastern University. Yeah, he worked at the LEP accelerator in CERN.
Look up Dr. Virgil Swan.
Yeah, that's him. That's funny. There he is.
Who is that?
Look him up.
L3 at the LEP accelerator in CERN, Geneva, Switzerland. The Large Electron
You're not funny. You
Positron Collider.
Some people think I'm funny.
Maybe next time you won't slam a guy with a plasma.
Very interesting. He was a fascinating dude.
Just a couple weeks ago, Nick was like, "What does the Large Hadron Collider do?" When we were walking to lunch, and I was like, "Nick, come on."
It's looking for the God particle, isn't it?
Yeah, it found it.
Yeah, the God particle. I found it. Oh my God.
And now all the scientists are trying to fight that.
It would have been funnier if they did.
They don't want to call it the God particle.
Yeah. I would want to know the knowledge of Sean Connery.
Wise choice.
He seems like he's an interesting fellow. He's gonna have. I could be a really good actor with that knowledge.
Yeah.
I would get to live vicariously through him. I'm sure he's had some experiences.
I was gonna say earlier that it would be worth choosing someone from the arts because as filmmakers, it's more, I guess, important to know perspective and I guess emotional intelligence than it is just like knowledge.
Right. So who would you choose from the arts?
I would have to take a really long. I'd think about it a lot. What about
Sean
you guys?
Connery? What are you talking about? It's done.
Connery's an excellent
Think about
choice.
that. I'd be 31 and I'd
choice.
have the chops of Sean Connery. I'd know how to act that way, how to do all the cool things.
So
my
was it- it
accent
wasn't
would
even
only
just
get
like-
better.
The only thing that I would
Oh,
say
it's me, Sean Connery, ain't it, Governor? Pop 009.
Pop 009. You sir are a disgrace. You are a disgrace to the Bond franchise. I want you to leave this room right now. Don't leave. You have to outro us.
Question. What's the cue? Give me that watch and spits the fireballs, will you? Save the queen. Save the country.
Just let it. When he's like this, there's no stopping.
But I'm just saying, like, think about that. If I could,
I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, but the problem with Sean Connery, old Sean Connery, is that you don't have his. No, this is no offense to you. You're an Adonis of a human being, but you don't have his looks. And Sean Connery started as a model. That's why he was picked.
Attitude is everything, man. You just need his swagger, his confidence.
His chest doesn't.
But am I getting that?
What?
Am I getting his confidence? I mean, I'm learning.
You're pretty confident, though.
I know. Imagine the Sean Connery level of confidence.
You'd be unstoppable.
Maybe I already have it. I don't even know. But I don't think I'm taking on his, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like he's gonna have some workout tip in there.
No, but the knowledge.
Sean Connery's guide to not being fat: don't eat as much and exercise. Like, it's not. Well, I'm not gonna be like, whoa.
No, but the knowledge of like how to best use confidence. I think that's something you learn as you like. I mean, I guess it's not you either are confident or you aren't, because there are plenty of people who aren't, who become confident or you learn to use it. But that's a guy who famously was, always very self-assured, like walked around with a swagger, knew what he was doing. And I think that's part of discovering that, like, that's learning, that's knowledge.
Yeah. Plus, you have good stories. Drinking with people, being with the ladies.
Being in like a ton of Bond films didn't hurt.
I wouldn't even think of those. Those memories would never be accessed.
But you don't think Isaac Newton didn't have good stories? Remember that time I got hit with the apple?
It's like, hey, I'm gonna discover.
I was sitting under this tree.
I'm wearing this powder wig, everybody.
Check out this awesome prism that I made. I made this prism.
These clothes sure are hot. Nobody will invent better ones for 50 years, though.
I've had the same wig for 15 years.
It's weird that he's got he's got an accent between like a Brooklyn native and Mike and walking.
In 100 years, someone's gonna like that Spider-Man. They mess with one of them. They mess with all of them.
It's a well-known fact that Sir Isaac Newton was actually a crane operator in downtown New York.
He was in purgatory and was reborn in New York.
Yeah, as
in post-war New York.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. He was also a longshoreman. If I had to pick two, because Sean got to pick two, so I get to pick two now. One from the arts.
I get to pick two?
Well, you picked two. Well, you're thinking about your second one from the arts.
Yes.
So I'm going to go with one from the arts, one from sciences. The arts, I would go with like a James Cameron. So if you're going to, if you're talking filmmakers, here's a guy that knows how to make anything you want to throw at him. He knows how to negotiate Hollywood or navigate Hollywood. He knows how to make a huge blockbuster. He knows how to start a career, how to keep a career, an enduring career. And he also knows how to turn his passions for one thing into a career in filmmaking as well. So he, for instance, he is just, I think if I remember reading this correctly, set a record for the deepest dive humans have ever gone to.
He holds the record for the deepest.
Is it? What trench?
Mariana Trench.
Yeah,
that's why I think Jim Cameron's actually a really good choice, because he's one of those guys who actually, more than most, exists on both
levels. He's a scientist.
Yeah, he's very much an explorer. He designed the cameras on the NASA rovers that are on Mars right now.
Think about
that's
this guy.
Crazy.
Like, you see these pictures of him in this little submarine. It's him in this little submarine.
Yeah.
And the things like you have to get in because the hole has to be so thick, and I imagine there's a lot of science that goes behind it that I don't understand. But he has to get
discovered,
and he is just like everything's right here, and the guy's got stones. I mean, he's going down deeper than anyone's ever gone down before. You're not going to say anything about that?
No.
Good. So I'd pick him because I mean the guy's just had a stunning career and has obviously been able to do a lot of things outside of that.
Terminator
was amazing. As was T2.
The Abyss.
Judgment Day. The Abyss was amazing. If I went with someone in more of the scientific vein, I'd probably go with Steve Jobs. Now there's a guy, and the reason I go with Steve Jobs not because to have his knowledge of
that's
how to
not
make
even science. That's business.
That's what I'm saying.
Making bank.
Well, aside from his business acumen, he is a guy that understands what it's like to change the world and have a vision that you can rally every single person in your company behind and really, really, really have change the world. That's what he did. The iPhone
6 times.
Every devices that he's put out is amazing. So I'd want to know what is your thought process that liberates you from all these things that weigh us down as normal human beings and allow you to dream that big and then have the balls to go after it.
LSD.
Was it LSD?
He's cited that numerous times.
Yeah, you gotta watch Pirates of Silicon Valley.
One of the things he said about Bill Gates, he was like, Bill Gates will never be a visionary because he's never dropped any acid. Something he said numerous times, Steve Jobs, which is totally kind of...
That's twisted.
Jobs was interesting though because he had the trifecta. He was a computer engineer and a guy who understood science and math, but he admitted that he didn't understand it like Wozniak did, which is why they were great partners, at least in the beginning. He was a businessman who saw, like we talked about before, the Apple One and knew that he shouldn't. Wozniak wanted to give it away. He wanted to sell it, and they created Apple and got in bed with Intel and early on and stuff like that. And then he was an artist and a visionary that's understood the aesthetic was really important too. That that things have to be beautiful. That simple. At least later on, that simple was best.
But see, and that's the thing to me is it's so very seldom that you meet a human being that's so good at both of those aspects, business and art. Threading that line or skating that line between both and finding that one perfect, beautiful product.
Well, it was really all three, right? Like he's one of the few figures who very much is operated right at the center of where art, science, and business all kind of intersect.
Yeah, the Venn diagram.
Yeah,
it's a Venn diagram.
If you guys get to, I want to. I'm going to be Ben Franklin as well. I'm going to get his knowledge.
You want to get struck by lightning?
Oh yeah,
by flying a kite in
Ben
a
Franklin
storm.
He was a dope ass motherfucker.
He was one of the most OG motherfuckers there ever was. Yeah. Did you see John Adams, the HBO miniseries?
Yeah.
Oh my.
Was Nolte Ben Franklin, or was he Jefferson? Nolte was.
No, he was Franklin. I think.
Was he Franklin?
Yeah,
because he was he lived in Paris for a while.
Yeah. Jefferson was there too, but and Adams was there too, but like I've said before, I love that scene of him in the bathtub with the French aristocrat when they're playing chess, and he was he women just apparently loved him, fucking loved him.
He was a baller,
because he was smart and he knew how to talk to people and he was interesting.
I gotta see who played him in this.
But I love John the way they portrayed his character and that's one of the great. By the way, if you've never seen John Adams on HBO, it's on Amazon Prime.
I've never seen it. I'm gonna have to check it out.
Oh, it's so good.
It's based on McCullough's biography.
But it's a narrative, it's a
scripted show.
It's a scripted show based on the book.
Film.
It starts in 1770 with the Boston Massacre, goes all the way through 1826.
Awesome.
Paul Giamatti, right?
Yeah, Paul Giamatti plays John Adams.
Cool. Period pieces tend to not be my thing, but I'm good ones I'm down for.
It's an immaculate period piece.
Tom Wilkinson played Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah, I can see him in my head.
Yeah.
Was Nolte in it?
No, I don't think he was.
Yes.
I think Nolte played Benjamin Franklin at some point in his career.
There's what I loved about John Adams is that they really got there's everyone's in that movie. All
it's
the really
a crazy cast.
And I don't mean actor wise. I mean they got obscure. People were playing obscure American history characters that were kind of pushed to the side in historicity because of the prominence of 7 or 8 of the founders. It was really cool. I love the guy who played Washington in that especially.
Because he's in everything. He's in The Rock.
He was just awesome because he was just he played it. All the characters were played exactly the way I envisioned them.
When you were
Madison was awkward and Jefferson was kind of full of himself and all this. I envisioned them like that. I think that they did a really nice job.
I want to rewatch it. I haven't watched it in forever.
Well, supposedly I think it was supposed to go on longer than it did. I think they lost funding for it. But I think it was supposed to be 3 or 4 seasons or something like that. And I take that back. It was only supposed to be a miniseries.
It was. I think it was a miniseries, but I think they might have they kind of started rushing towards the end. So I wonder if they actually did was actually supposed to be longer. They spent a lot of time in the Revolution, rightfully so.
Benjamin Franklin's so smart, good writer, great head on his shoulders, understood everything.
You drew that.
He's a great artist too, kind of good tattoo artist. It's not the best snake I've ever seen, but it'll hold up as a snake.
It was not drawn; it was engraved into a wood block. So you got to give him some credit.
I'll give him that then. I'm coming back
because it was supposed to be printed.
Right. Okay. All right. Colin.
Yes.
What's your topic?
So a lot on the show I like to talk about space. I like space
travel.
I'm really interested in science, obviously.
The final frontier.
Spice.
Mike Mitchell's here, so I got to go out and bring this game to him.
We can fill time.
Can you give me a minute?
Yeah, sure. What do we gotta do?
We'll shoot the shit.
All right. Hey, Sean.
Hey.
What do you want to talk about that you haven't talked about today?
Well, I was still giving. Well, I don't know. I was still thinking about who my second choice was going to be if it was going to be from the arts. I was going to say Orson Welles.
That's a good one.
He grew up during the golden age of Hollywood and the golden age of American commercialism. Like basically when America was at its strongest and at its like best.
But what are you going to do with his knowledge?
Well, I mean, that dude.
And by the way, Kevin, you let this keep going.
That dude is another
no break.
You don't.
Like this is still the last topic.
You don't let Kevin do it.
The
all right, you better know, Kevin.
I was gonna stop. Oh, you wait till we get those insults out.
I don't want. Yeah, you better not be.
Throw one out right now. Just give us one
Nope.
insult.
We're waiting. None of the insults are coming out yet.
God, I
We're
want 'em.
waiting till
I want
everybody's
these
checks
insults.
what is
clear.
this insult segment that you guys do?
On Patreon.com/kindafunny. If you support us, one of the categories that we will refill every month is you get to put an insult into the show via
Portillo.
Kevin. So if you have a fun 100 pence style sign insult, 0 for 1, Kevin will read it on the show and
He'll shout it at me. It'll be an
Greg.
insult directed at me.
But
From
it can't
off
be an
camera.
insult in you're just calling Greg something.
It's gotta be one of the
terrible.
100 pence insults.
It's got to be a clever
gotta be
insult
funny.
that both
Kinda
insults and boosts Greg's ego.
Got it.
So you're thinking
Interesting.
Orson Welles.
I'm thinking Orson Welles. The dude is, a master of many different arts. Like long before he was a film director, he directed theater. Was very successful there. When he kind of moved into mainstream media, he started doing radio and is famously the producer and main voice of
War of the
Worlds, which I guess there's conflicting reports on this, but when people heard the War of the Worlds broadcast originally, they thought it was real.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's actually accurate.
That's what I've heard. I never heard that there was another thing.
Yeah, I took a radio and broadcasting class back in college where, like, I guess nowadays that fact is kind of blown out of proportion.
Oh, really?
Like, most people knew it was not real.
Yeah.
But some people did, which is crazy. It was very successful. And then he moved into filmmaking where he arguably made a couple of the best movies ever made, namely Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
And the one that I think is great, which no one ever talks about, which is Touch of Evil. Now, Touch of Evil, I've told Nick about this before. Have either of you seen Touch of Evil?
I don't even know what Touch of Evil is.
Touch of Evil is this film noir from 1958. And film noir was this movement that existed from 1941 essentially to 1958, and it ended with Citizen Kane, or not Citizen Kane, but Touch of Evil, and it was because Orson Welles made a film noir that was so good and so smart and so what film noir actually was that everyone who was making film noirs was just like, shit.
Pack it up.
We can't do it anymore. And literally no one made another film noir until Blade Runner, which is crazy.
Interesting.
Yeah, so
kind of like DC Universe Online.
Yeah.
Came out, perfect MMO. Everybody's like,
everyone's
"Fuck,
like,
stop!"
Oh, geez, yeah.
No,
It was he had a very very intimate and deep knowledge of the art, and not just filmmaking, but all arts. Like his perspective and just his knowledge about it and what it actually meant was probably greater than any other filmmakers.
See, I think I have to default to directors on these, just because like watching a director at the beginning of his career to where he is now is always such an interesting sort of examination. Seeing where like Ridley Scott was, right, when he directed Alien versus where he is, I mean, even at Blade Runner or now or with Prometheus, and like just seeing like the simplicity of sort of where he put the camera, how long the shots lasted, how long the edits were, like how many edits there were, that versus now, I think part of me is like, oh, that's an awesome journey to go on as a creator, and obviously we do that on a minimal level with what we do here with the show, right? Like we iterate and we figure out new ways to do things and stuff like that. But there is an allure to wanting to skip ahead and immediately know what that person knows at a 40-year career in filmmaking and going like, dude, if I could, like, you see these guys come out of college sometimes, you'll see them come out of USC and they'll direct their first movie and you're like, how did you do that?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Maybe you had a great DP, maybe you had great people around you, but also you had a vision that was way more mature than it ought to be for someone who's 23 years old, you know?
Well, and that's like kind of my greatest fear as a filmmaker is like I'll make a movie and I'll put my heart and soul into it and it'll come out a piece of shit. And I'm like,
Probably
wow.
will. I mean, if you look at a lot of early people, that's
Oh,
what
yeah,
happened,
totally.
right? Like Kevin Smith will even say Clerks was a giant piece of shit. There's no reason why anyone should like that movie, but we all do because he put heart into it, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, and that's what the thing about Orson Welles is. I guess maybe the counter argument there is he only really made a couple of films. Like all the other movies he tried to make ended up being like disasters. Not just because of like most of them he didn't even finish because Hollywood and the system turned against him essentially. But
System.
Touch of Evil. Like imagine the film at the time he made Touch of Evil. Film noirs were like action movies nowadays. Like you would get a couple every year. There were all over the place. Everyone was really interested in it. If someone were to make an action film now that was so good that everyone, including Michael Bay, was just like, wow, I can't can't do it anymore. Like,
Yeah.
that's doing something totally different, like super smart and very just dialed into what the art actually can do and what it can be. It was both in a way like self-referential, but also totally sort of absorbing. Like, you didn't know that it was being self-referential. It was kind of crazy, super crazy. We're talking about Touch of Evil. You ever seen it?
Touch of Evil.
It's a film
Orson
from
Welles
1958.
flick.
Orson Welles. No, I don't think so.
Here's my question for you, and this is going to sound like a Greg Miller joke, but it's a Greg Miller serious joke.
Mm-hmm.
Does it offend you as a filmmaker, someone who's super knowledgeable about the craft, you're referencing Orson Welles, that most people don't, number one, know these films that you're talking about, and number two, only know Orson Welles honestly is like the Peas guy? The YouTube clip of the guy losing his shit and the Peas VO read, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, obviously?
I do, yes. Yeah. No, it doesn't offend me. I think there was a time when like I was still coming up through film school where I was very, very pretentious about filmmakers. Like all kids are. Like, you know, they, for some reason, they think that their taste is indicative of their own skill, which is totally not how it works at all when it comes to the arts and crafts. I think it's how culture works, right? Like, what is popular doesn't necessarily dictate what is quality. And Orson Welles and people like Akira Kurosawa, another great filmmaker, they all kind of fit into that category. Like, they're they're above, like head and shoulders above every other filmmaker. They're masters of the craft. But they're not necessarily that popular. Like, when it comes down to it, I've come to terms with the fact that Stanley Kubrick's going to have a little paragraph in the history books, whereas Steven Spielberg will probably have a whole chapter.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know anyone who's actually knowledgeable about film who would say that Spielberg is more of an artist or was better filmmaker than Kubrick. But that's just popularity, you know, like they're for different audiences. So no, it doesn't really offend me, and I'm fine with that. And plus, I like, you know, the fact that you have to kind of dive into that stuff to really know about it, you know. Mm-hmm. And I guess nowadays, I can't really fault people for not knowing who Orson Welles was. Like, he's from a different era. You know?
All right. Colin.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I had to go give Mike Mitchell, our old roommate, a game that I got for him.
Can you tell us what game it was?
NBA 2K15.
Oh, okay.
He's freelancing reviewing it for IGN. And he returned to me Ys Memories of Celceta on Vita and my DualShock 3.
You fucked it all up. Yeah. Give it to me again. What game did you give him?
NBA 2K15.
Oh, here, that one's a slam dunk.
God, you were on fire, man.
Moriarty Miller, buy your shirts right now. Whoa!
So I forgot to mention this before, but it's October now, so I want to thank everyone for supporting our Patreon. We're super honored and humbled by your support of our Patreon, and we want to really impress you with what we're doing. And the good news is we've been talking a lot, we've been hanging out a lot, the four of us, and Tim's not here obviously tonight, but obviously he has great input too, very knowledgeable.
Oh yeah, Tim's dead, by the way.
Yeah, and I killed him.
Wow, what if Tim dies tonight? Then we're screwed. We can't put this episode
Everyone
out.
always says that. Fuck that. If somebody makes a joke about me dying and then I die while it happens,
Kev's gonna have to go back and re-edit the episode.
No, he isn't.
No, we got to put it out the way it is.
Bleep that part out.
But I want.
No,
but all right,
bleep it out.
All right, so
he's got a family.
It'll be all right.
Family man.
I just wanted to say to everyone out there that we appreciate your support, and we owe you 2 new shows, 2 new series. We're not going to tell you what they are yet, but I'll tell you one of them has to do with this substance right here in this glass.
Liquid.
And liquid. It has to do with liquid. It has to do with bourbon and other drinks. And I'm super excited about this show. So we're going to have more for you on that soon. So my topic.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm curious where we think humanity and Earth.
The final frontier.
Earth.
Earth.
Where we think like humanity will be in terms of space travel in 100 years. So 2114. Now, important things to keep in mind. The race to create rockets in the pre-war era, people thought we were going to be much further, right? Obviously, the rise of sci-fi. Then we went to the moon in 1969 with the processing power of like a TI-89 calculator, as we've talked about before. Yet we've never gone back to the moon since the early 70s. People thought the NASA pioneers in the 50s that were doing, Mercury missions and the Gemini missions and all those kinds of things thought we would definitely be to Mars and stuff like that by now, but we're not. And a lot of that has to do with just the loss of interest in space travel, unfortunately, but also because of the loss of funding and all those things. And that things are really hard to do. And I recommend, and I think I've recommended this book, Packing for Mars by Mary Roach. Excellent book that people should read about all of the weird shit you have to think about when you travel into space. And why it's harder it's harder than you think. What?
How many pairs of underwear to bring?
More like, if
How do they wash their clothes?
I don't know. more things like if you're on like if you go to Titan, for instance, a moon of Saturn, right? Very impressive moon. You would have to be in a spaceship for years and years and years with the same people. Can you have sex?
No.
In space? Well, we don't know. We don't know.
I think you can. You can do whatever you want.
But what happens?
Pools.
But like, what happens if like they're stray liquids and stuff like that, and they get near
eyes, computers?
Oh, okay. You know, like like the book's all about that stuff. Like it's easy to think about like how you make a ship and you go to, but like it's like how do you live on it? You know, and that's more like the things that they're talking about. So you should read that book. It's very good. So I'm curious like what you guys think. And my thoughts are this. I think that growth in technology is exponential. We're going to go in one of two directions. Either we're going to like never really go back into space again in a deep way because things are going to deconstruct here on Earth because of social strife and all those kinds of things, environmental problems, whatever. Or we finally get our shit together, especially through private industry like SpaceX, and start going to these places really soon. And so by 2114 we could have fully colonized the moon and Mars and other places around the galaxy or the solar system. And I'm kind of curious what you guys think about that.
I mean, I think that if you go that route, you're going to have there needs to be a definable resource out there that we want, that we can capitalize off of, basically that we can make money off of in order to drive a lot of our space. If we can't find something out there that's worth actually colonizing, or a reason why a planet or a moon would be worth colonizing, I don't think we're going to get there. I think in that instance, then 100 years from now, we'll have a bunch of drones, a bunch of robots that'll be out in the universe exploring for us. And then one day we'll lose contact with them, and then like 200 years later, they'll come back to destroy us. It'll become a sentient being, like the Cylons.
It sounds more like a screenplay than an actual idea.
It was actually I aped most of it from Battlestar Galactica. Truth be told.
I don't know if it's actually resource oriented. There's a famous quote from Neil deGrasse Tyson saying about the NASA budget now, and the quote is something, and I'm paraphrasing here, but that $750 billion bank bailout that happened in 2008, that sum of money is larger than the 50-year running budget of NASA. Like that one sum of money. And with that sum of money, they've done so much, right? Like, and his argument is that the distribution of spending in the global economy today, particularly here in the United States, is so skewed where we think we don't have enough money to spend on things like space probes and stuff, and it's really kind of stunted the growth of Mars. Like, I think the problem here is that we would be a lot further along, and certainly by 100 years be a lot further than Mars, I would say, in our own solar system, if we could fix the social issues. Like if we could really figure out what is, stop playing for the quarterly report, Simultaneously, technology is moving so quickly that by 2050, the world is going to be not recognizable at all, right?
Well, no, it'll be fine. That's the same thing people always happen. Like we always say that kind of shit, and the same stupid ass buildings and cars will be on the street.
I don't know. I mean, yes, that is true. People do say that. Like the vision of the future, we always
remember when you were a kid,
like the Jetsons.
It's like you're in 1986, and you think about the year 2000.
Yeah. Or I mean, look at
it's all the same shit.
Back to the Future 2. That happens in 2013.
Yeah.
And they have like flying cars,
hydrated
and
pizza,
and like random dryers that just exist out in public that can just dry you off after it rains and stuff. Like, it's nonsense. But at the same time, like, we have more processing power and technology in our phone than any scientist in history did. Coming up to this point. And a lot of these sort of technologies, like, I don't know if you guys have read anything by Ray Kurzweil.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Singularity.
Yeah. He talks about the singularity, which, if you're not familiar with the idea of the singularity, it is that beyond a certain point of technological progression, things become not recognizable because it moves so quickly. There's no telling of what it could look like. And I guess the consensus is around 2050. That's when it's supposed to happen at the rate at which technology is currently progressing.
Yeah.
If that's the case, I mean, we're all going to be alive for that. Like, we may be cyborgs by then. We don't know, really.
Sure. Colin, here's my question for you. Mm-hmm. Where are we right now with that Mars mission? The one where people were like taking applications.
Oh, the suicide mission?
Yeah.
They're still doing it. I think it's supposed to happen in like 2022.
And bring everybody up to speed again.
There's like a Dutch company that's like doing like a series of unmanned missions to Mars to like drop supplies there, and then sending a suicide mission to Mars of like people. I think like a few people that will go and like with no not that they're gonna go and die necessarily, but they're gonna go with no expectation to be able to get back. And that they think, and they're right, that a lot of the expense and problems with space travel with humans is that we always worry about getting them back. Mm-hmm. And like sometimes you just can't, especially like even the Apollo scientists will say like, obviously we couldn't strand the fucking astronauts up there, but it would have been a lot easier to just send them there.
Yeah.
But they had to like figure out how to like somehow get them back, and they did.
That would suck too, because then every time you went there, you just see their floating bodies.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So that's still going, and obviously SpaceX and all those guys are doing their thing too. I think one of the big things we have to overcome, and I think we'll have to overcome with technology, is like just the rapidity of how you can get to these places. Obviously, with our own technology now, it takes about 9 months to get to Mars. At a certain, like if Earth and Mars are close to each other, obviously they can be totally on opposite ends of their orbits, and it would be twice as long. We have to like cut down that speed. And what's so discouraging, and I think even discourages a lot of scientists when you read about what they write, is that a lot of smart people think that like we won't. Like exploring space is finite because it's just too big, and that like we can't do interstellar space. Like we can't do interstellar travel, which is just travel between stars. Like the closest star is about 4 light years away. At current speeds, it would take 60,000 years to get there. Like
yeah. So I mean, when are we going to get to the real question is when are we going to get to the point where we discover a propulsion system that'll get us there quicker?
I really think I don't know how you feel about this, but I honestly think that like faster than light travel is possible. We have to figure out tricks to do it, and then like once you're able to, and it might have to do with wormholes and like and all that kind of stuff. But like that's the only way, because even if you had a propulsion system, you can't. As you approach the speed of light, everything slows down to a stop. Like there's all of these paradoxes that happen. Like I'm not even sure how close to the speed of light we can travel. And if you were traveling at the speed of light itself, which you can't, matter can only travel slower than the speed of light, then it'd still take you 4 years to get to that star.
Yeah.
It's just like there's like all
4 years of resources, and like how big does your ship have to be in order to have that much water and recyclable food and all that stuff. Yeah, it's just
recyclable food.
It's a huge mission to undertake for sure. I don't know. I would.
Spoiler alert, it's never gonna happen.
Maybe not in our lifetime.
No,
the
for
next
sure
star,
not in our lifetime.
Definitely not. But I think I would be hopeful in saying that I think that maybe in our lifetime we'll see another planet, like a human on another planet, not the moon.
I want to see these suicide people get to Mars.
Yeah, and that's not out of the question. I think again, Neil deGrasse Tyson has said like if you doubled the NASA budget to it's now 0.1% of the tax dollar, if you doubled it to 1% or whatever it is, or 0.2% of whatever,
0.2%.
Yes,
1/5%.
That would be able to get us to Mars in 10 years, is what he says. And I mean, maybe he's exaggerating to kind of emphasize a point, but maybe not. He's much smarter than I am, so who knows?
Yeah, but again, what's the point? Like, other than
the point is that
science and discoverability. Like, what's the point of going to Mars?
The projection is by 2020
science.
that there's supposed to be 12 billion people on this planet. By 2020, that's like it's 2014. That's 6 years from now. Like, we are rapidly running out of resources right now, and I mean, this actually Interstellar, the movie, is timely of this, right? Like, the whole point of that is the only reason they're going to just try and find a different way off the planet is because now, like, it's pretty clear that the planet's going to be destroyed, or humanity will destroy itself trying to save itself. And, I mean, it's a little post-apocalyptic and it's a little bit futuristic, but I don't think that we're that far away from that right now. We're already on the brink of nuclear war and all that. So the point would be survivability, right? Like, the only way to actually ensure the survivability of the human race is to move to other planets.
Yeah, and there's like practical population control reasons for it too, but we've talked about this a long time ago when we had Damon on. Like, you have to keep humanity interested in thinking about the next thing and like and enraptured with like something that's big and that we all do together. And space is like, with the exception of like underwater and places underwater and trenches and all these things, like there's nothing left to see on this planet. There really isn't. I've
never been to Paris.
Think about the great explorers in the 15th, 16th, 17th centuries that were like really discovering shit. Like, there's nothing that's not going to happen ever again, ever. On this planet, we know everything. We have satellites. Every inch of this planet has been seen.
You can see into someone's house using your internet.
It's like, that's what's so exciting to me. I think we will go. So I have a few predictions. We'll go to Mars in our lifetime for sure. I think people.
You mean a man on Mars?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And
or a woman.
And I think that I think it won't stop there. I think that like there's other places like that are interesting that we have to figure out how to get to, like Io, which is the moon of Jupiter. Which,
that's the one that they think water.
Yeah, there's like people think there is water there, and then. I think we would probably go to Titan just because it's like a rocky outcrop amongst the gas giants. That we can't obviously land on Saturn or Jupiter. It's a gas and it would crush us. But I think that like getting to those places is essential because we just have to have that explorative kind of quality to our race. That's what we've always been about. And when we become stagnant, then things kind of become sad. And I also think that we're going to eventually figure out interstellar travel. And I think it's going to
How far is that out?
Not as far as people think, I would say. Like I was reading about this when I got sucked into that Wikipedia hole. The theory that supports the invention of an ion engine, which is sort of that next generation thrust mechanism, that exists. Like in theory, it works. Like they have hypothesized a scientific theory about what could build ion engines, which are engines that are powered by electricity and positive and negative charges, and you spool them up like they do in Battlestar Galactica. It takes a second to charge, and then when it initiates, it for its entire duration just keeps getting more and more powerful because it's a feedback loop. But it takes a long time. Like it starts up and it starts slow, and then as you go further and further, it gets faster and faster and faster. And those like the theory for designing an engine like that already exists. So I mean, again, if humanity were to come together and kind of put aside its differences for a little bit, it would not be. Yeah, who knows if it will.
I think it's not going to happen.
It would not be outside of the possibility that we could see that in the next 30 to 40 years, you know. And then we could get to places like Titan in a manageable amount of time, and that makes everything easier. It's technology, you know.
Yeah, I think we just have to figure these problems out. Like we've talked about it before, I think on this show and certainly on Podcast Beyond, but like the reason Mass Effect was so compelling at its core level is because it scientifically solved how they travel faster than light. Because it's just not physically possible, and you know, element 0 is how they do it. They reduce the mass of everything to 0, and if something's mass is 0, it can travel faster than light. So like, it's some silly workaround, but at least they like had like it's not just like we're going to hyperspace and like your Millennium Falcon
hyperdrive,
goes. It's like no, we have to have this special element that we discovered that reduces the weight of the ship to nothing so that it can travel faster than light.
You're telling me that ludicrous speed isn't real?
It goes from mass relay to mass relay, and like that's how they do it. And I think that we will figure out. I think we're gonna figure out ways. I think that we're gonna become really smart as long as we don't extinguish ourselves first to start to trick science,
which we're not sure we won't do either.
Yeah.
No, there's no way to know if we will or not. But I think that eventually, super smart, intelligent. You know, if you read the Fermi paradox and all those kinds of things about like how many smart civilizations are in the galaxy and all those kinds of things, they eventually become smarter than they should be. And I actually think we're already smarter than we probably should be in terms of the way we manipulate our environment, and we've gone to space and stuff like that. We're not supposed to be able to do that.
Cloning human beings now.
Yeah, exactly.
So
we're a very adaptable species. That's
exactly.
For sure.
So like, there's going to be like all of these like, and I hope we do live to see it, like these fascinating tricks where they can figure it out. Like, where like they figure out a way to trick physics and trick science into like letting us do things that we shouldn't be able to do. And hopefully like one of those things will be, you know, like interstellar and intergalactic travel, you know, through like the exploitation of wormholes and all those kinds of things.
Folding space on top of each other.
And
you dark matter engines.
And you might not like what's so fascinating about it, like with the mass relays in Mass Effect, which was so interesting, like when they use the mass relay in Mass Effect lore, Pluto has a moon, Charon, which is its real moon. But in Mass Effect, it's not a moon at all. It's a frozen mass relay. An ancient piece of technology. And the initial humans jumped through it not knowing where they were going to end up. And if they were going to be able to get back. And I think it's going to be a similar thing where we might figure out a way to rip into space and time or rip a wormhole, which sounds crazy, but it's really not. I mean, it's scientifically possible. Einstein and all those guys used to talk about it. And they just don't know if they're going to get back. And you're just going to have to find people ballsy enough to see, like, where does this go?
I wouldn't go.
And where
I would go.
Where is it going to find? Like,
why wouldn't you
where
go?
Where will we find ourselves?
Why wouldn't you? Because you don't want to die, snuff out for no reason.
You're going to die anyway.
Sure, but this is a boring way and nobody gets to see it.
I don't think it's boring. It's scary as hell, but
I think it's the opposite of boring. You're literally taking steps further than any human ever. Like in
theoretically,
history. Like no
maybe
one may
just blow up right there, and then he's got a whole bunch of shit floating around in space.
Maybe.
Remember what happened? Whatever happened to your son? By the way, he thought he could tear a hole in time and space.
He shot himself through a wormhole.
You can see his fucking. You can see the wreckage of him floating around the goddamn moon.
Look.
It's also not
a constant reminder to my mom, a shiny piece of me.
It's also not out of the realm of possibility that we discover someone else's technology that allows us to do these things, right?
No,
maybe on Mars.
Was.
Yeah,
maybe on Mars.
Well, I mean,
that's what happened to Mass Effect.
Yeah,
but I mean, that's the thing. We probably know it though. Wouldn't we know?
What?
Somebody would have seen something.
Isn't it possible that we are the first intelligent life to have developed in our solar system?
Oh, no,
that's
we're
for sure.
definitely, yeah,
Yeah.
there's no doubt about that.
So there's no way that
Here's a
life
question.
unless someone visited and crashed on Mars.
Well,
No, but
that's-
I mean, so for instance, we sent Voyager 1 out to space, and now it's outside of the solar system. It's just floating out there. Like, if someone else found it, it has directions to us. They could send us things.
Gold
or
record,
do
right?
anything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
the gold
gold
record. Yeah. If we got to a point where we could travel to other planets, we may have the technology to detect at least other things of that sort or similar things.
I mean, that's
out
like
there.
the dream, right? Like that's what I think the holdup is when you talk about, when all these movies that are about like our resources are running out and blah blah blah, so we go try to find this other stuff, right? Like I don't think that's ever gonna happen in our world because everyone's so short-sighted. There's no planet in our solar system right now that we could go out and colonize and make live on. You know
Well,
what I
you
mean?
could terraform a planet. You could terraform Mars. Venus might have been
Used to
something
be
different.
like
Yeah,
Earth,
it's suffering from runaway greenhouse effect.
Sure, I understand you could do all this, but again, that you're not going to be able to. I don't think.
Well, we won't be able to, but certainly the science exists there.
Sure, there's science to do it. I'm just saying you'll never see our people do it. And that's the thing. By the time we're like, oh fuck, the Earth's fucked. We need to figure out if there's another Earth around here.
You think we'll be long dead?
It'll be too late. The die will have been cast. We won't have the ion engines. We won't have a space station out there, giving us the ability to then get further out to find out what's going on somewhere else. Nor will our terraforming technology be there.
I'd like to be optimistic about it, like in hope that on the brink of our own destruction, we realize like that we can't exist this way and that we have to do something bigger. Because it happened before, right? Like during the space age, the space race during the 60s and 70s. We did great things. And just one of those things, which, by current standards, I guess putting a man on the moon isn't that great a thing. But that single act inspired generations of forward-thinking scientists and very progressive thought that kind of made it possible for us to do the amazing things we did. And maybe just one of those events is what we need now to really rally everyone together and kind of make something like that happen.
Private corporation seems to be the most interesting way.
Actually, you are right there. It's kind of sad that it's not going to be on NASA's watch that the first manned mission to Mars actually happens. It'll be under Elon Musk's rule.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool.
It's good because the problem, and it's true, even though NASA does run on a shoestring budget, is that everything's going to be more expensive when a bureaucracy deals with it. So at least if the private companies will do it for the cheapest possible way, and they'll get more out of their dollar, which is good. But Nick's right; they have to find a way to eventually to make money out there. I don't think it's going to be a problem to do that.
Well, maybe.
I think you start honestly by using billionaires and say like, "We'll bring you to space."
Yeah.
Pay us $10 million, and they already do it. I mean, Virgin Galactic and all these companies are already doing that, being like, "We'll bring you to space. It's going to cost you $500,000." And we'll do it. So like I think that's how you're gonna raise your capital and stuff like that. I'm telling you,
That'd
like
be a trip. Could you imagine being able to afford something like that and just being like, yeah, I'm going to space tomorrow. What do you
I'd love that. When I was a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut just because I wanted to float around. Like that's super cool to me.
Yeah.
Also, the most iconic photo ever is taken from space. You can only do that if you're an
Standing on the
astronaut.
moon.
Yeah.
it's extraordinary. Like I'm so excited to see like what we're capable of in the future. Like we were talking about black holes earlier and how they bend space and time and they fuck with the laws of physics and stuff like that. Like there's no, and I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's it's necessarily impossible. There's no real reason why we aren't able to manipulate space and time in the same way if we can just figure it out. Mm-hmm. And it's gonna take a lot of brain power, more brain power than we have. But if we are contacted, like we talked about earlier, like those species have figured it out. If they got here from across another spiral arm of our galaxy, then certainly they understand how to manipulate the shit out of everything around them in order to get here. Like it's not they're not just flying in a spaceship.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping for. The big hope for me is like that someone will come and save us and give us this technology and share the technology.
The travelers,
with us, like the Vulcans. Like if
our ghosts.
Yeah, if we can. What?
You have no idea
Destiny.
what the
I heard.
Sure, you did.
I did. I watched Mega 64's Destiny video. It explains the whole. There's a gate lord.
There's not much to explain in the story. There's not a lot there.
There's a whole bunch of things. There's
all right. Get back to your point.
Anyway, no. I mean, the hope is that someone comes in and takes that burden off of us because it's going to be hundreds of years before we can figure that out if we ever do. And by that time, who the hell knows what's next? The internet has basically made us all lazy. So
it's true. I like the idea that we are the ones. We're always talking about that they'd get here so they'd be more advanced than us. But what if we're the ones who eventually get out? I don't think we will. Though
we're killing all of them.
But then we get out and we do find a planet of basically caveman intelligence people.
Colin, this might be an interesting topic for another topic, but would we be the dominant? Would we go to another planet and kill them all and enslave them?
No, man. The Prime Directive.
It's funny just because we've talked about that in the past too. About, I don't know how you feel about it, where my theory is, and a prevalent theory in science is, in hypothetical, science where two species meet, is that there's really only two reasons why a species would leave to try to find another species or run into one. Is like out of pure curiosity, which would only happen if they had like a utopian society where they had nothing to worry about at all.
And nothing to do.
Yeah. Or they want something. Mm-hmm. And it's more likely that they want something. And we were talking about like reasons to travel. Imagine if water is really rare. But it's probably actually not that rare. I mean, we've found it even on the moon, nonetheless on Mars. But imagine if the only way you got to have amino acids and all those things, everything's carbon based and they need water. Like that, life needs water. I don't necessarily believe that's real. That's why we always say life as we know it, because life somewhere else could breathe nitrogen and have whatever lithium running through their veins. We have no idea. But what if water is really rare and they know we have it, and they come here and they take it? Like there's like all these like and that's like that makes more sense
Canada,
to me.
Or like you can take Canada.
That makes more sense to me, right? Than interest. And the reason that is because they're so smart and they've seen and done so much. Why the fuck would they give a shit what we were doing here?
Yeah.
Like at that point, if you could come here, you have to wonder like why you'd even be interested in coming here. Unless you want to manipulate what we're doing or help us, or like the whole zoo hypothesis thing, which is to watch us. Or
so
there's like so it seems to me like hostility is actually the most logical.
Yeah.
I think Stephen Hawking said the same thing. I think there was an article that went viral on Reddit the other day or a couple weeks ago where he said like if aliens did come, they were most likely going to wipe us out, which again supports that theory. I wanted to go off on a different branch similar to yours. Do you guys think, does the panel think that we have already been visited?
No, I don't. I don't think so.
Nick?
No, I don't think so.
So all of those UFO videos are...
But I mean, you're talking about like
man-made bullshit from the Air Force
society that can come from God knows where to visit us in secret. Why would they care? I mean, I don't know.
The zoo hypothesis.
They're so unbelievably powerful that they can get here, but then they're worried about our military. And
that's what the zoo hypothesis is that they're so smart that they don't want to affect our evolution by letting us like they want to observe
the
us.
prime directive.
But how do they keep fucking it up then? Let me see these goddamn UFOs.
It's all those iPhones, man. They just didn't know. Everyone pointing their shit at the skies.
Jobs.
Yeah, I don't think we were here because I don't think there was any way for them to know. Like that was what was so interesting about what Carl Sagan was writing with Contact, was that the second we transmitted something that could leave the atmosphere, it was found. It was this first thing that was found was what they bounced back to us, which was the ended up being Hitler's speech from the Berlin Olympics, which was the first thing that was transmitted strongly enough to leave the atmosphere. And so if you take that 1932 was the starting point, or it was 34, whatever it was the starting point of what we were transmitting. Well, that was 70 years ago. And some people think that like nuclear signatures are probably one of the first things that can be detectable too. So that's 1945. So that's so there's only 60, 70 years for these things to pulse out. Now, when you think that there are only a few stars relatively that are around us that are that close, and and all that information travels at the speed of light, it's going to take forever for like one of these signals to get, and not degrade and get to a place where someone receives it. Then they have to receive it and figure out what to do with it, then come here.
And they have to be looking at the right part of the fucking sky, which is, again, in and of itself, very, very big. You're not even looking in the right direction most of the time.
It's so weird. Like, and that's what we were talking about with Dyson spheres and all those kinds of things, about like people were like, well, the observable universe and how we're looking for stars with planets around them. But I still think that if the whole hypothesis of Dyson spheres, which is building spheres around stars in order to like that advanced species will build spheres around stars to harness all 100% of their power, that it's possible to do that they don't need the light, they need the power, that like we wouldn't be able to see them anyway. So like the places where intelligent life is might just be obscured because it's logical for them to build something like that around their star. So there's like all these weird, I could talk about this forever, and I'm sure you can too. It's just like
super interesting.
It's fascinating stuff. But right now we got to just figure out how to fucking travel faster.
It'd be awesome if you got to Mars and you found something that somebody else had put.
Get a better engine out there.
Yeah.
I don't, like I said, I want to be optimistic about it. I think in 100 years, think about this. Just in this last century, we went from man first getting off the ground with flight to putting someone on the moon. That was a 60-year period, just 60. And that's a quantum leap forward in generational technology and science. And now I would argue that the average human is smarter and probably better read because of the internet and more knowledgeable. I think the challenge there is just sort of directing that information and technology and know-how to something that actually matters. And if we did do that, then in 100 years, we'd be outside the solar system too. We already have a man-made craft outside the solar system it's about to power down and it's just flying out there, God knows where. But
Yeah.
And it's got instructions to find us.
Yeah.
So be very careful. And then the map to us is, this is what my favorite part of the goal. We were talking about universal languages, right? You probably know this.
yeah.
The map to us is based on pulsars, and like where the pulsars are located in reference to the Earth. So like we can't tell them like literal.
Go left
Like,
to right.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's like look for these 12 signals, and like we are in the middle of it, and that's like so fascinating. We even draw little humans next, and all these kinds of things, and
We should have drawn us like huge though, just to intimidate them a little bit.
Ripped.
Like here's a tree, here's us. They're like these guys are ice giants.
It's really a fascinating thing because it's
We were
the
gonna go
golden
give them our
record is something
technology, but we
that,
hate
we're
ice
so
giants.
Carl
scary.
Sagan actually designed. And just think about what you would have to think if you were tasked with designing something that could be a message to a species that is how like fathomably different than humanity.
I would just paint the thumbs up sign. It's a universal sign for we're having.
Yeah,
a
they
good
look
time.
at that. They're
Photo
like,
of
what
you and
is
Cheetos.
Having
it's so fun. Like I think
Cheetos feeding me. I'm
didn't
feeding Cheetos.
Didn't they drew the human with his hands open too and stuff to like show like we're not hostile or something like that. There was like all these weird things you have to think about. And what's so funny about how technology is coming is that it's a fucking phonograph record.
Yeah, analog.
Like yeah, it's like something like where we expect that they're gonna take it and put it on a fucking record machine. Like we already like don't like we don't use them like it's they use digital data. It's just so funny. Like they would find this and be like, who the fuck made this?
They're not worth our time.
Yeah, like who is bold enough to launch this fucking thing into space?
Yeah.
You know, they probably laugh and then break it in half and just fucking go in the
Jeez.
opposite direction. Isn't there like a space movie or like a space horror movie that starts with an alien finding alien
I
species
hope not,
finding?
because that was the idea of my screenplay. Nick will tell you.
Sean already wrote one.
I think that
At least in
I think that
outline.
idea exists.
It's
You
a
should
cool
look into
idea.
that. It's a great idea.
Well, I
hope-
mean the Star Trek, the original Star Trek
maybe
was
that's
about
Star
it.
Trek.
Yeah, Voyager.
Where someone finds the record
They find it and they call it V'ger because the
because it's
O is
trademarked.
obscured. No, I think that
Oh.
something hit it and all they can read was V'ger.
Huh.
So they keep calling this thing this advanced thing V'ger, and then when Kirk and the crew they're like, oh, that's Voyager. You idiots.
Oh.
Dumbass.
So they
aliens.
discovered their
Yes.
own. They discovered the Voyager that we presumably
Yes, the
sent
thing
out.
that like this alien society. I've only seen the original Star Trek movie once. It's really long and kind of drawn out. Nothing like the predecessors. But that's the main thrust of it all.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I would. All of that stuff really fascinates me because it forces you to think outside of the box. You know, like literally. And
Or outside of the planet.
yeah.
The sphere.
But
Not giving you that one. Sorry.
when we're
Not gonna
really
help
on the cusp of they just discovered the Higgs boson particle, the God particle, like that's
What is
going to
the
allow
God
us.
particle? That sounds cool.
So the reason that it's so important, and this is a lot. Again, I'm paraphrasing here heavily, and I'm not a scientist, so I don't know the exact details of it.
you. Sean
but-
Finnegan is not a scientist.
One of the things,
You know
that
that's gonna be a
scientists.
shirt now, right?
Oh God. Well, if you guys are okay with taking a loss on it, then
Buy the Sean Finnegan likes hiking shirt, you mad.
There's only 2 left.
Districtlines.com/
There's a small and a
Yeah.
triple extra large.
So the one of the main problems that exists in physics right now is there are 2 sort of main thoughts, right? There's quantum mechanics and quantum physics, which is like how physics of like very small particles work, atoms, molecules, all of that stuff. And then there's the science and stuff, physics, just regular astrophysics of large bodies, planets, black holes, stars, all that stuff. And when you boil it down, these 2 theories do not fit together. And there's this disconnect where the rules that we apply to one set do not match up with the rules on the other. They conflict. And so it's been posited that we're just missing one element that kind of allows us to connect physics and quantum mechanics. And that was always hypothesized to be the God particle, which is now the Higgs boson particle, which they have discovered by slamming particles into each other at the speed of light at the Large Hadron Collider. What ramifications this discovery has, we don't know. Like, it's kind of a well-known scientific fact that like a discovery is made, and in and of itself, it's kind of just like, oh, cool. But then 40 or 50 years later, we're like, oh, we can do tons of crazy shit with this. So maybe we won't see ramifications immediately, but that would be that's why it's
If you're
so
gonna call something the
significant.
God particle, though, it better make good.
It gotta
on that
deliver.
name. Yeah,
Well,
it gotta
so
deliver.
here's the thing: is like hypothetically, if we were to be able to unify these 2 theories of physics with something like the God particle, it would allow us to do something like invent the ion engine or manipulate dark matter. Which these are things that like as humans conceive of it now, would be something that gods would do.
Could we do it?
Travel through black holes and shit.
Could you
know?
use it to hydrate a pizza?
As long as it only.
By the way, Kevin.
I don't know.
Said that you guys were wrong. It's 2013, not 2015 for Back to the Future 2.
He said 2013.
I said 2013.
2015, excuse
That's
me.
what he said. 2013. I didn't say anything. So
Well,
I don't
whatever.
know. You can hydrate a pizza though. Nobody hydrates a pizza like you, Grandma. Remember that line?
Yeah, how can I forget?
That was
Ladies
awesome.
and gentlemen, that's
How can I
another
forget?
episode of the Game Over Greggy Show. Thank you for joining us. Remember, the idea of the show is simple. Each and every week, 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather around this table. Each bring a random topic of discussion for your amusement. If you like that, you can go get the show each and every Friday at kindafunny.com. You can go to Patreon, get it there. You get a whole bunch of other bonus stuff. You can go to Bandcamp, get it there as an MP3. You can go to Vimeo, get it there as a downloadable and or streamable video. Of course, if you don't think we're worth the money, don't worry about it. Head over to youtube.com/kindafunny, where each and every topic's broken out day by day for your amusement. Then you go to districtlines.com/kindafunny. Buy a shirt. Have some fun. Follow us all on Twitter. Sean Finnegan.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
Not
coming
a
by.
scientist.
Dude, thank you guys for having me.
Go buy your go buy your shirt.
I'll buy it.
No, we'll buy it
we
for
gotta
you.
get you one. We'll get you the Sean Finnegan.
I like Sean.
scientist.
Yeah, Sean Finnegan isn't a scientist. Is going to definitely be one of the shirts.
Has to say is not like underlined.
yeah.
Is not a
Yes,
scientist.
yeah, underline. It's not- no, only the not though. Sean Finnegan is not
Not
a scientist.
scientist.
Yeah, good. We're gonna make that.
Well, let us know in the comments if you want that shirt, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.
I do like wearing them. It does also brighten here, but no.
Does he sound? Is he okay? Is that thing too close to his face?
No,
it's
it's
not
fine.
close to the
It
mic
looks
at all.
good.
Is he hiding his face? No, look at his pretty
No,
face.
he
There
looks
it is.
great. The
Okay.
profile face is the best face.
Why are you talking like walking?
It's fine.
Ooh, his profile face.
You guys, it's a hot dog.
Bruce Wayne. Why are you dressed as Batman?
Because he is Batman, moron. Was Batman.
You're like, why did you just do Michelle Pfeiffer as walking too?
Because she wanted so badly in that scene to be walking. Could you imagine being in a movie with Walken and not being up, like not doing Walken? I'd just slip right into it. He'd be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't know."